morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 20th day of May 2024. Welcome to our show today. Sorry I'm a little late. I started to get in and I could tell Jeff and I were talking and all of a sudden things started not working so well. So I'm going to bring on our first guest, Jeff. Buongiorno. How are you?
Doing well, Donna. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great today. It was a beautiful weekend. I bought a bunch of roses for my barn. So we were busy. We were busy moving hay around and planting fruit trees and planting rose bushes. So I think it's going to be pretty colorful and fun. So ready to start things off and get back in there in the fight and just let people have it. I had an interesting week last week. I went up to Grayling on Thursday, and that was kind of interesting to be up there. I had a tour of Grayling. And I really left with more questions than I got answered up there. It was kind of crazy. So I'm processing this. I'm going to continue to process it, but I've been writing about it on my Telegram channel. It was like the whole thing was deserted. I didn't see one actual military personnel up there. It was kind of odd. DK was doing all the security that wasn't military. And the only entity that I saw with a real presence was the DNR, which was odd. Even the airfield was completely deserted. There wasn't so much as a pickup truck on it. So it was kind of an odd thing, and it kind of left me with more questions than answers and such. But I've been posting on a beautiful place. It looks, it's a beautiful place on Lake Marguerite, and the tour was real interesting. So lots of things going on that I think we need to ask questions about, and I think we need to talk about what we actually see. I know that when I was down when I was in DC, there was no graffiti there. And shortly thereafter, I went to an event where President Trump was, and he was talking about the graffiti in Washington, DC. And I'm like, there's no graffiti there. I was there. And so, lots and lots of questions going on. And I think it's just time for people to stop believing the narrative and trust themselves, what they see. Go ahead and trash this whole nonsense about the Mandela effect. That's nothing but a CIA op, and start trusting what you see and what you know instead of trying to believe the experts, because the experts are all full of shit. And so, I mean, that's the actual truth about this. It's time to start thinking for ourselves, using common sense. So anyhow, that's where I am. So what are we talking about today, sir?
Yeah, well, I'm excited and anxious to hear from Jason Ickes, who will be joining us shortly. I think the biggest news story is this the president of Iran and the helicopter going down, and no signs of life. So last week we had FICO, right? Was he what country is he? Slovenia. So
yes.
And today, this weekend, Iran. So, is this kind of setting the table for an assassination attempt on President Trump?
Feels like the whole world is changing. It's changing. It's changing rapidly. If you watch the markets on silver and gold and such, and I know everybody's kind of freaking out about that a little bit, but I want to think about this because I've seen this. I've seen these spikes before in the precious metals industry. And so, but combined with some of the other crazy stuff like the banks and the fall of the financials in Cuba, that's kind of interesting. There's just a lot going on, and you know what? We're all sitting there on shifting sands, which it's an okay place to be. I mean, it doesn't. I don't know if it bothers you, but it doesn't bother me too much to watch things change. I would rather have things change than to sit here in a morass of nothing, of doing nothing, not making any changes. I mean, even if a change goes in a bad direction, at least if you can see the truth or see what's going on, you have a fighting chance at fighting it. But this radio silence crap, when nothing changes, I hate that. It's like I'd rather see absolute action in one direction or another, because then you at least have a target to fix on, to fight it.
Well, there's definitely anxiety in the financial markets, and just the debt is unsustainable. It's
bring it down. This thing needs a flat line, man. Let this thing fall right to the ground, because it's even with the communication networks need to come down. And, there's a lot of things that we need to go to a full stop here. And I don't mean like a Klaus Schwab type of a reset. I hate that guy. It's like you couldn't even have created a better supervillain than Klaus Schwab,
Yeah, all of these globalists could be in a Batman movie. It's they're the enemy, and people have to understand it's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's the people versus the globalists and tyranny, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum. You have to identify the enemy in order to defeat the enemy. And there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, and people don't want to believe, how would our own government, or why would they want to kill their own people and poison their own people? And it's very difficult to get through to some of these people, and they claim to be, with us in the cause of spreading conservatism, and even some Christians, they are just they're not in the fight. And if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're siding with the globalists at this point.
Right. You can't be silent. You've got to pick a side that you're on. And I got to tell you, I continue to uncover more stuff here in Michigan. So when I was up at Grayling, the only presence there that was of note was the DNR. And they're clear cutting trees in the state of Michigan like crazy. They are not protecting the environment. They own all the timber rights. They own all of the mineral rights. And they've got somewhere about 4.6 million acres they're in charge of, including all the waterways. So I've been going down that little nonsense path here and seeing the connections, not only to that, but the property owned by, say Amway, Betsy the Joke DeVos, and all these people that are, and so there's another layer there besides Klaus Schwab, Zuckerbucks, and those people. I think people fixating on those as the top people, I think that there's something wrong there. I think that there's another layer there that they're missing. And it's great to focus on them because we need to be aware of all the layers, but there's more than that. And honestly, I can say right now, we've got a DNR that has unchecked power. They can arrest without a warrant. They can seize property without a warrant or arrest, and you won't get it back. They can come on private land if they suspect that a crime is being committed. And with them controlling the waterways and that much land in the state of Michigan, I think 70% of the land in Crawford County above that is owned by the state of Michigan. And when I was up there, I was looking at all the presence. There was no military presence that I saw up there. Zero, none, nada. Even the PX there was on dial-up. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is like a freaking kids camp. And I'm like, hey Jason, how you doing?
Hey.
Morning, sir.
You guys hear me?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I can hear you now. So I'm like busting the chops of Grayling and what I saw up there, like a freaking historical kids camp above ground. The airstrip was completely deserted. The security was DK, which is based in Grand Rapids. The DNR owns basically all the waterways, which is kind of suspicious at this point in time, considering all the freaking islands and such. It's like there's an island right behind Amway, Altacor, and you've got DeVos who allegedly, from my team, threatened my life a couple of weeks ago and admitted that they tried to get rid of me twice out of Betsy DeVos's mouth. Screw her. And the globalist thing, you look at all this stuff going on. I mean, the globalist stuff going on with Amway and some of these big corporations has to be chased down. But I'm going to tell you what, when you've got a DNR prancing around on 4.6 million acres in the state of Michigan, clear cutting the trees, I'm sorry, but I work in the gas and oil industry. We would be strung up for leaving the land the way I saw up there in Crawford County. We would literally be strung up for leaving the land the way I saw it left. There's environmental dangers or implications on what the DNR is doing. And they've got more jurisdiction than the frickin' state police. And it's crazy.
So DNR is who?
Department of Natural Resources.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's like so they own all the mineral rights. They own all the logging rights, and they're not restoring the land. They're going up there and they're clear cutting this. And the erosion threat up there, I mean, we would be strung up on a pipeline job if we had left it the way that they've left it. I mean, it's crazy. And it's not an overnight thing that they've done. They're just clear cutting and saying, screw you people, we're going home to the next place. I mean, there's something wrong.
Why are they clear cutting?
Because they own the logging rights and the mineral rights. I don't know. But they're literally, and I want to see the receipts. Why I'm like, where's the money going within the DNR? And how come it is that they've got all the water rights and there's some gravel pit connections to this too. And I'm going to be going down this because I want to see who else is involved in this, because it looks to me like this is seriously organized crime being carried out by people that have unchecked power.
Well, that was informative. As
Yeah.
far as
sounds about right.
Yeah, they're not only are they looting the bank and diminishing our currency, they're raping our natural resources.
They sure are, and it's the DNR that I saw that was involved in it up there.
You know what it sounds like? You know what it reminds me of is my experience in Africa, where the Chinese would come in and they would just, all they're there for is resource harvesting, and they would just clear cut, set up shop, and walk away when they're done, completely disregarding anything, any sort of standards for ensuring that the wildlife and the habitat is restored or returned.
There's no oversight there whatsoever, and they walk away, and because people don't have access to the land, we the people can't even see what's going on there. And so it's like,
that's exactly what happens when you have a centralized control of a regime that can run amok because there's no accountability by the people. They don't answer FOIAs. They don't. They think that they have authoritarian control over everything, and so they can just run amok.
Well, I'm all about right now abolish the DNR and prosecute all these bastards that are in there that have committed crimes against we the people. Same thing as in the government offices, the departments, all of them. They're all corrupted. They've all been infiltrated. And when you see behavior like the clear cutting of trees and just leaving it, we're just going to clear cut the trees and walk away. And I mean, they didn't restore the land. We would have had to do that. And the erosion danger on the land they're clear cutting should be the destruction of the topsoil. They're just going in and grabbing the logs.
Where's all the activist environmentalists that are throwing a fit about all this stuff? I haven't seen them say anything about the Goshen plants disrupting farmland that would be, taking carbon out of the air. Instead, they're arguing for the Chinese battery plants. The environmentalists that I've seen on X arguing about it, they're actually defending Goshen, like EVs are going to save the world. Yet here you are destroying the very land that would actually be helping remove the thing that you're worried about, destroying the environment. And meanwhile, there is already vacant mining leaching pits in the Upper Peninsula that would work perfect. Why not just repurpose the abandoned leaching pits that are in the UP instead of wasting perfectly pristine farmland? Everyone's up on all these people on the left. All these activists are so worried about, we don't have enough resources for everybody on the earth. We're overpopulated, all that garbage. Yet here they are advocating for the destruction of farmland over the reuse of abandoned leaching fields that would prevent the destruction of that very same farmland. Or how about the fact that there's thousands of acres in Detroit that have been used for manufacturing, and that the soil is so contaminated they can't use it for anything else other than industrial purposes? You could easily throw up a warehouse, do capture on your leaching pits, and run closed system leach pit in Detroit on these vacant lots that cannot be used for anything else because of the soil contamination.
Like brownfields, a brownfield, you are not going to build on that because of the contamination there. And so it has to, we've dealt with that in another area, that than one of our businesses. There's a brownfield around it, and it's like you can't use it. You've got to use it for a purpose like this. And to your point, that's a great idea. Here's another thing on this. So the EV vehicles, do people understand that it's not normal vehicles that are destroying our roads? It's the overweighted trucks. And now you've got these EV vehicles that are very, very heavy. That's also affecting our roads, and it's going to create more damage. These people are either so freaking stupid, or they are hell-bent on destroying this nation, the birthright that Americans have here, the birthright of the children of God, instead of these demonic, Satan worshiping Luciferian pieces of crap that are just doing nothing but evil. They just destroy.
Well, let's distill that into what we're seeing and what we know is happening. The first comment Jason made is, where are the activists, right? They're you know where they are. They're spread out at universities protesting, anti-Israel. So they're getting
paid to be.
Those are paid activists. Those are not actual activists. Those are paid actors.
Yes, they are.
And we know, it was like, what happened to save the whales and all of these wind farms?
Save the rainforest.
Yeah.
Save the turtles. I've got my turtle story. Save the lesser prairie chicken. Oh my gosh, I've been training for this nonsense. So the bats. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think the bats are smarter than vacating a few trees and millions of acres of land. I mean, this is nuts.
Look at the big picture, right? So first they sold us socialism, and socialism, a certain amount of the population is going to buy into it. But what's the goal of socialism? Communism, right? At the end of the day. And so it's like they shifted gears, because one of the core elements of communism is to control our production, our output, right? So first it was, we got to save the whales, and we have to save the three-eyed chicken and all these crazy animals that are getting in the way of the Keystone Pipeline and the snails and this and that. But that didn't go so well. So now they've changed gears, and in order to control production, and we are where we are now, and it's apparent that it's a very small, and let's call them paid, part of the population that is in favor of all this stuff. And I think that they've just been, over the last 4 or 5 years, that's been exposed. And we see it with these big donors pulling out of the universities, and the shift in the Jewish dollars and where that's going. And it's so, I think we're moving in the right direction. Is it fast enough? That I don't know if we have a chance. I just know that we're talking about elections and immigration, and it all kind of ties together, right? We need to take it back, and we're down to it's showtime now. We're less than 6 months away, and in my opinion, not much has changed except for all the evidence that we have. And based on what we've seen in the last few weeks in Georgia, with the 380,000 images that are missing, and they admitted that 3,300 ballots were scanned, they don't know how many times. You have Wisconsin, they printed 64,000 ballots. You have all the shenanigans in Michigan. The people should be outraged, and we should demand that the state legislators reclaim their electors from the 2020 presidential election.
We need to go back and write that. We cannot go forward until we go back and write the crimes of the past.
There is no future without fixing the past in this case. Right. We have lost control by succumbing to the notion that we have good people that are going to actually stand up and do something. And we've been shown time and time again over the last 4 years that this is really, honestly, we're in the last few months of prove it to me. Show me that you aren't all corrupt, right? This is the nth hour. Before this election, if you're an elected official or a law enforcement and you are not willing to look at any of this blatant corruption, I'm sorry, but you're complicit. This is something that we really need to start taking much closer to heart. The fact that this abuse of the obstruction of justice with no ramifications whatsoever it's totalitarian in nature. It's completely un-American and unconstitutional. Where is all of the people that swore oaths to uphold the Constitution when you're trampling on 14th Amendment equal protection? The same exact crimes that are being committed by one actor are not being enforced in kind against another. And that goes back to something that I wanted to talk today about, which is the enforcement on our cybersecurity. Our infrastructure for more than a decade has been identified as extremely vulnerable to foreign threats of disruption, in particular, our power grid. This isn't something that's new. 20 years in the making, we've known our power grid has significant vulnerabilities. And the more and more we've gone online with services, industries, and the interconnected, the IoT, the Internet of Things, as we have continually expanded that, well, guess what? There are devices now in the healthcare industry and in our elections that are run by devices made by our adversaries that are taking advantage of backdoors they've placed in them. And we're not allowed to talk to the people about this. We're not allowed to expose this. We're not allowed to expedite removing this and maybe fixing these problems. We're just supposed to just sit back and twiddle our freaking thumbs. The time for exposure is now. It's time to start cleaning this mess up.
Oh yeah, it's late in the game. 6 months. I made this presentation over a year ago on the infrastructure crisis in our election systems, and just right off the bat, you have two very simple objects. You have ILO, internal lights on with HP, and your PERC on Dell, and mostly we're using Dell. There's people can bad actors can access their through the back door, right? It's built right in. There's none of the traffic goes to any of the logs, and these officials they're ignorant. They're walking zombies. They don't question anything.
Oh, they're complicit. They're not ignorant. They know what's going on, and they refuse to do anything.
I think it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
I think there's a 50% are ignorant there's a lot of old people still in positions of power that don't understand technology whatsoever. So I will say that there is some very ignorant people that are running things that just don't understand it. And but they're taking advice from people who probably are compromised.
Yes, that's the exact. So I made a few phone calls to some supervisors of elections in Florida and some of the county council members, and one response was, "Well, the state handles that, and the consultants handle that. We don't do penetration tests." So they have blind faith and trust in the government and everyone in above them in the pecking order. And
hey, I'll tell you this: the penetration testing. There's invasive and non-invasive or types of penetration testing. So just because someone says they did penetration testing does not mean that they did the full suite of tools and actually looked at everything. There's also the internal analysis that requires access to like the source code. And you don't get that unless you hire a firm to specifically do that. Now, CISA has asked for access and coordinated to do that on our voting systems. They were delayed due to COVID, actually getting an opportunity to look at the code until after the 2020 election. After the 2020 election is when CISA at the Idaho National Lab actually got a chance to look at the source code, and what came out of it? Well, they published the 9 critical vulnerabilities, right? You guys are aware of the 9 critical vulnerabilities that CISA published into our democracy suite, Dominion voting systems?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that came out afterward.
Nothing's
but
been done.
but they were asking and trying to get access to do that. But to this date, we still have systems in use around the country that have Windows XP on them. Windows XP was, end of life in 2009. We have systems that have Windows 7, which was end of life January of 2019 or 2020. Meaning that Microsoft was not going to be putting any updates out anymore to keep them secure, keep that operating system secure. So how can a manufacturer of cars, automobiles, have parts go wrong or bad and have to issue a recall, but our voting machine vendors don't?
Yeah,
They just get to leave the machines out there vulnerable to subvert and sabotage our elections.
Yeah, we proved that with Mesa County, and I think that needs to be exposed. Those virtual machines, those images are sitting in Jenna Griswold's evidence locker, and we saw that they're using Windows Server 2008. I think Windows 7 or XP were the workstations, and there's Visual Studio 2005 on an old version of .NET, where we found the vulnerabilities. You have these dynamic link libraries that are signed off by Microsoft as being legitimate, and when you dig into them, that's where the vulnerabilities are. So Microsoft is complicit in this whole fraud and all these these aren't bugs, they're features to help. And I don't know how CISA is the enemy, and they censored us on 2020. You have Chris Krebs, most secure election, and they're not trusted. And we spoke about this before. The .gov Act of 2019, they made CISA a top-level domain registrar, and if you know anything about that, they can get into the DNS root zone, and that they're all using Cloudflare DNS, which means you can connect them with Warp Client, and no one knows. You don't really need now. There's not going to be breadcrumbs like we found in 2020. They've advanced in their methodology from what they've telegraphed and what we're seeing.
What you're describing too is something that not very many people understand. So when you get onto your government website, for example, we're in Michigan. Go into Michigan, you see mi.gov or michigan.gov, whatever it is, .gov. That's a government domain, right? Well, when you see things like .com, that's a commercial address, right? So yesterday I was looking at a page from a Google search for a document from the Secretary of State's office in Michigan, and it linked to a .us domain, and the website was for checking your voter registration, your voter status, and a few other things. And I'll let you, if you want, Jeff, if you want to elaborate on why, when you go to the government website, that it's the government certificates, it's trusted, you understand it. But then when you go to a different domain, top level domain, and you start seeing, okay, I'm supposed to put my credentials, my personal PII, personally identifiable information, into this website that's not ran by the Secretary of State's office. As far as I can tell, there's no Secretary of State's office logo on it, but it's the one that's linked from what appears to be a legitimate Secretary of State website. So are they using external websites to do data harvesting? I'm concerned that our Secretary of State's office has people that are setting up watering holes to collect voters' information. And for what?
Okay, so
are they selling
I have all the receipts. I have all the receipts for you. Donna, can you share that screen? That Excel spreadsheet? So let's see how maybe I could expand it a little. So I downloaded. So Jason, awesome points. And what we're finding in Florida is that the supervisor of elections, they're being told it's not mandatory, but they're being asked to go to a .gov top level domain. And if you see on right here, column O, it's highlighted right here. Oops. You see that Baker Elections, right? .com. And then you have bayvotesfl.gov. And then you have votedesoto.com. You have dixievotes.com. So why are some .gov and why are some .com? Now, I can tell you why, what I think. When I navigate to one of these websites, let's take the first one, Baker Elections. It's like 22,000 Republicans and 6,000 Democrats. There's no value in cheating. They can't. They're not going to. It's too small of a county, and it would be too obvious to. You're going to have 28,000 registered voters, or throw in the independents. I don't know, 38. So it's highly red. So you have this disparity right here, which is signaling that they're going after the high volume counties that have that are persuadable, like Palm Beach County. Is over 1 million voters, and Palm Beach County is .gov. So this whole thing with .gov is to secure the data. Is Jason still on? Did we lose him?
We lost Jason there.
Okay. So I really wanted him to see this, but yeah. So here you have. I mean, to me, this is definitely something to look into. But what's really more concerning is, while Jason's off, let me pull up something, because Donna, you had a question on this, and we went over this. What do we do about these illegal registrations? Now we're talking about Help America Verify Voters, how they're. So for those of you who don't know, if they're accepting just the last 4 digits of Social Security number as ID at the federal level, and the feds are pushing registrations or approving voter registrations based on some internal data that is basically a mystery to everyone. So I'm not a lawyer, but what I did was I read the website, and it says if you have questions about this data, to ask your local election official. So I put together a document, right? It's a declaration. So a declaration doesn't have to. It's not an affidavit. Doesn't have to be notarized. So it's easy to produce and easy to to submit. So if we look at this, the states are required to verify the driver's license number against the state MVA database. Only in situations where no driver license exists should the states verify the last 4 digits of new voter registrants' Social Security number. So the state submits the last 4 digits, the name and date of birth, to the MVA for verification with SSA. And then they come back and report whether it's a match, not a match, deceased. There's like 4 different columns. But anyway, the number of transactions that we saw during COVID, okay, I isolated COVID, it is not realistic. It shows that there's some kind of data manipulation. We don't know where these transactions are coming from. So I put together, so this is giving the people that receive this, the recipients of this declaration, some background. And so this is what the request should be. I want the exact sources of a have transaction, the exact complete process, the exact criteria for an approved have transaction, the position of and name of each person at the county and state level accountable for verifying the legitimacy of the voter registration. So there's a list of items that we need to know, and to add some kind of urgency, I go into what the threat surface is, right? We have evidence here of illegals, right? I have XX. This is a work in process, but we heard Chris Wray's testimony that because of the broader invasion, there's a terroristic threat is imminent. We have loss of control at the border was confirmed. We have an executive order from Biden saying the feds should register voters. We found a memo from one of the NGOs that was written in Spanish in the Darien Gap with the Biden-Harris logo, asking them for their vote. And Florida state constitution, Article 6, Section 2 says every citizen of the United States who is at least 18 years of age and who is a permanent registered, if registered as provided by law, shall be an elector. So that means, so what does this mean? Every citizen. Are they considering themselves citizens? I don't know. But what gets really dicey is when you look at this 18 U.S. Code 611 3C, or C3, sorry. It says, so this is crazy. And they love their plausible deniability, right? Whenever there's crimes, there's always plausible deniability, because you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law that a crime that was committed. So this is statute right out of U.S. Code. This says that it does not apply. So basically, the statute is saying you have to be a legal citizen to vote, right? But then what it's saying, you're not subject, it's not a crime if the alien reasonably believed at the time of voting in violation of such subsection that he or she was a citizen of the United States. So it's not possible to know what someone reasonably believed while they committed a crime, right? You have to get inside that person's head. So this is repugnant to the Florida state constitution. It's also repugnant to, there's a statute that's even more clear, 97.041. It says you have to be a citizen of the United States. It's a little bit in more clear language in the state statute.
Well, what they're saying is basically anybody can say, I identify as a citizen.
I use that, and yes. I identify. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That as long as you go in there and say, I identify as a citizen. I identify as a cat, going to the bathroom in a litter box. This is insanity. There's no measurable criteria.
It is insanity. And, the state attorney generals have to step up, because, what they tell everyone in Florida, we're not allowed to ask if you're a citizen. You're not allowed to ask for proof of citizenship.
Why?
But I can't find that law. I really believe it's just a narrative.
It is a narrative, because why is it that they can't ask if you're a citizen or not? That's upholding the law.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Are you getting Jason on?
I'm calling him, yeah.
Good. Call him. Let's get him on here. I texted him too. Say, come on, Jason, get back on here. Jason, superior brain power.
Yeah, I think that's going right to. He's not answering, so he must. Maybe they hit him with a heat-seeking missile.
Who knows?
I don't.
Yeah, God forbid for certain. It's just like when we connected this morning. My computer setup started glitching, so I had to leave and come back on. That's why we were a little late this morning, because Donna Brandenburg is going to do something a little gutsy this morning. We're going to go a live broadcast of a Webex of the hearing of Lilyana Rose. And I think it's going to start about 12 o'clock, but just wait, watch this thing glitch, because they don't want this out, because they kidnapped this child. CPS did.
Oh, back to Jason's point.
Okay.
Sorry. So you see the vrsystems.com on my screen. Can you share that again?
Got you up there. See the what?
So vrsystems.com. Yeah, vrsystems.com. This is the company that handles our vote by mail. They send the ballots out. We also report all of our voting data to VR systems. Now, what's very interesting is, well, first of all, why do we have this third party? But I wasn't prepared to show this. Might take me a second to bring it up, but they have a presence in Russia, in China, in all of these, enemy states. So, this is interference. Why are they even part of the voting system in the state of Florida?
Right.
Excuse me.
I'm going to put this up on my Telegram channel in a minute so people can check this out, because this is absolutely nuts.
Yeah. So if give me one more second to see if I can. That's my mama. Long gone. So
hey,
let me pull. She's up in heaven. Let's see what's going on here.
How long ago did she pass on?
She 2019.
Oh wow, I'm so sorry.
August. So let's go. Thanks. She suffered at the end. She had a long life. She's in a better place now.
Oh, here we got Jason. Hang on.
Yeah, let me do this offline.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, there's a problem there with audio. I had some weird thing happens when I get a phone call. I drop audio, but also a rain shower came in, and it was like a monsoon. Just
take it out the 5G.
I was outside of a restaurant, so
yeah. So
that's okay.
I don't know if you saw this.
This is live.
So you can put that back up, Jason. I want to show you this. I'm not sure what you heard. Can you put that back up, or I have to share it again? Okay. So, Jason, these are all of the SOEs in Florida, and you see how some of them are .com and some of them are .gov. Now, the ones that are .com are basically impenetrable. They have it's like a 3-to-1 ratio of Republicans to Democrats. So this just right here alone is basically, it's predictive what they're going to do, right? All these counties that are swing counties that are close are .gov. So why are some .com and why are some .gov? It's all right here. Are you with us?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, your camera's off.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get my my audio set back up. So I see this is the list of all the web domains, right? This is Florida.
This is all 67 voting jurisdictions in the state of Florida, and you have .com and you have .gov. The .com jurisdictions are 3-to-1. Very highly Republican. Some of them are very small. It's hard to cheat on mass scale when you only have 35,000 voters registered. Palm Beach County is like 1.1 million. Well, not that many voters, but that many residents. But it's a lot more. It's a huge county. So they're targeting the counties where there's play, where they can, do their.
So Jeff, what is the normal voter turnout?
Yeah, that's a good.
What is considered normal voter turnout in the United States?
Less than 30% in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, about the same in Florida, but you're seeing 110% in Calhoun County or Cuyahoga County, which turned Obama's second term, right? That's what through the election, Cuyahoga County, 110%. That won that county, that won Ohio for Obama, or Mitt Romney would have been president. Either way, we were screwed, but.
Right. So, the point is those jurisdictions, the heavy population centers, are the ones where you have, a lot more people who don't show up, right? That don't turn out, or low propensity voters who may vote in just the presidential elections. If you needed to assign some extra ballots at the end of the night, you could assign some voters don't actually vote, and and you could fluff, in one jurisdiction, the 50 spare ballots for at the end of the night that are supposed to be used for people who need to cure a ballot or provisional ballots, right? So what prevents someone from using that fluff at the end of the night there to cast an extra, 50 ballots and assign it to random voters? There's a huge problem when you don't have the close of polls and the tally results that night. As was, significantly reported and described, why all of a sudden do you get a surge in ballots at 4 a.m.? If you're consistently counting ballots all through the night, why all of a sudden do you get a surge at 4 a.m.? Why do you get any surges? You shouldn't get any surges if you're consistently, everybody, all hands on deck. You might see a slight increase or decrease as shifts change or people go, you got breaks or whatever, if the counting even takes that long. But why in large countries with significant populations are there essentially votes tallied that night? They don't have to wait days for results to be posted. They get them right there. They have them that night. India.
Yeah.
India now surpassed China in population. They have their results posted that night. Did you know that?
Yep.
You know what they don't have?
I did not.
They don't have tabulators.
Yeah. Well, so we know that's part of it. We know what they're doing, right? It's a question of stopping it. So 2 points. Can you see my screen, Jason, when I share?
Yeah.
So Donna, could you put this up again?
Sure.
You see this? You see vrsystems.com?
Yep.
Right up here. So these are the folks that handle the vote by mail requests, and also we also you got some background noise. Maybe mute your mic a sec. So we also report all of our voting data on election night to VR Systems. But here, these are other top level domains that VR Systems owns. They're in Russia and they're in China. And if you go to vrsystems.ru and you translate to Russian, it's all about how they're security experts, cybersecurity experts. So, what's this third party that has a presence in all these unfriendly nations? What are they doing in our election system? And so in Florida, we're in Palm Beach County, we're working with a group of people that have been successful in calling a statewide grand jury. And it started with, and the grand jury, they recommended indictments, but it timed out. Their 6 months was up. But now we have authentic data that was accepted by a judge. It's evidence in this grand jury, and it pertains to the mass migration, the invasion at the border. So now we want to add evidence and bring into play all of the illegal, the executive order 14019. We want to bring in the half transactions. We want to bring in the memos that we find in the Darien Gap in Spanish. We want to bring in U.S. Code 611, 18 U.S. Code 611, C3, where it's you missed that, Jason. That was you were off. U.S. Code 18 611 C3 says it's not a crime if an illegal reasonably believes at the time of voting that he or she was a citizen.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So and our state constitution in Florida, Section 6, Article 2, protects us. It says you have to be a citizen. It's even enshrined in the state law, 97.041. You have to be a citizen. So this is, in our opinion, this is a constitutional crisis, and it has to be resolved before the 2020 election. And through all my research, I cannot find any law that prohibits any official from asking for proof of citizenship when a voter registers or when a voter votes. I believe this is just one big Mark Elias narrative that they're pushing out there, and our election officials, the zombies, they're repeating this, they're regurgitating this, and the people believe it. Something has to be done, and like now.
Yeah, we have a constitutional crisis on our hands, all right. They have completely defecated on our Constitution. I don't know how anybody can look around and see what's going on and say that any of this is constitutional. You know, Doug Logan, I feel like he had an opportunity with Maricopa, and he was concerned about a constitutional crisis. I'll tell you what, it happened regardless. Should have just let all that information out there. Should have just let us fix it then. Instead, here we are years later, still in this situation, but degraded even worse.
So, yeah.
If we don't get this fixed,
you got to run right into the fire if there's a problem. You can't duck away from it because it doesn't make it go away. I mean, somebody's got to stop, full stop, and handle this.
Yeah, and we can play
one more time.
What's that?
No, I was asking Donna to share my screen. I wanted to show you this. You were on. So I put together a document, a declaration, because on the Have website it says if you have questions to ask your local voting election official. So I put together like a declaration form to request certain information. I don't know. Can you see my screen? Yeah. I basically took all the data. I put it in one document so the zombies can read it. And then this is my ask. We want the exact source. We want the complete process. We want the exact criteria for what's approved. We want the position of and the name of each person who's accountable at the state level, at the county level. anyone who touches this, we want to know, what is who's accountable for these transactions. Because in my opinion, if we can stop this 4-digit nonsense, that's going to be 2/3 of the cheating. Right? We demand a full, coherent explanation. And then I go into, I'm not a lawyer, right? And the ADD kicks in. But then I went into on the same declaration on how it's a constitutional crisis. And that's why this needs to be expedited. So they can't, kick it back and just run the clock out. So something has to be done. We come on here and we bitch and we moan, but we got to get this out to every voting per every jurisdiction, all 3,143 of them. I already set up an e-fax. It's called Humble Fax. We have all the faxes of all the 67 counties. We want to know what's going on. And then what I requested was the time frame when the governor declared a state of emergency in COVID, and we still managed to get like 13,000 transactions. So if we're in a lockdown and the fear porn is mongering heavily, how do we get so many transactions? And this especially holds true to Texas. During the COVID lockdown in Texas, they had almost 1 million transactions. So we need to start going on the offensive, and we kick ass.
Do you have a way that we can share this document, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll get it out to you. I'm working on that. I want to refine it. This was me on a Sunday throwing my thoughts together. But yeah, we're gonna probably make one just specific to request that data, and it might have to be a public, request records or FOIA, whatever your state calls it. I don't know. This is where I could use someone like Stefanie Lambert, who's your next guest. What a segue, huh?
What a segue. There you go. I got to see where she's at here. She just texted me a few minutes ago.
I think she's going to probably be running late.
Running a little late.
The issue that we have right now in our country is everybody's looking for somebody to do something, but everybody's pointing the finger at someone else to get to do it. And ultimately it comes down to, how do we, the consent of the governed, how do we want to be governed? We all have to agree on the form of government that we submit ourselves to. And right now, I think there's enough of a groundswell of people saying, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what my forefather shed blood and died for. But the question is, who's actually got the cojones to say no more, that we're going to go forward with prosecuting charges, the impeachment grounds for Biden, the Alejandro Mayorkas impeachment. All this stuff should be moving along so much faster because we've got years and years and years of evidence. We need to just rip that Band-Aid off. It's time to rip that Band-Aid off.
It's up to the people. We're starting this drive. Oh, go ahead, Donna.
The starting point right now is people have to learn to work together instead of fighting each other. They've got us so divided that people are fighting each other rather than finding reasons to stand together and work with people. Even if you disagree with them, they're spending too much time.
I lost you.
No, you're there. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, let's see.
You got video.
Yeah.
You're on mute. Oh, we lost him.
We lost him. Yeah, it's like we've got people spending so much time fighting each other just to be right, but they're not doing anything with it. So we're having discussions on who's right, who's wrong, but they're not sticking to the core issues and fighting what the issues are with people, whether you like people or not. It doesn't matter. You should be able to work with people, whether you actually personally like them and want to go out for coffee with them or not. That's not the criteria of working with someone. Working with somebody is looking at the goal, hitting the goal, finding. Hey, welcome back. Glad you're joining us again today, sir. The goal is to, we've got to focus on the target and the mission at hand, not whether we like people or we agree with them all the time. It's like get the mission clearly defined and then go for accomplishing the goal. And sometimes, you gotta swallow things a little bit. Like when somebody says something stupid, sometimes you just go, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit here and ponder this a little bit and consider all things. But it starts with us. People have to be able to respect people where they are and agree on a mission and go at it.
Well, that's so true. And there's a lot of rhinos that want to keep it this way, right? They love to lose. They get rich losing. They're controlled opposition. And Operation Trust, right? Where like these GOP committees bring in our best fighters, and then they give them all these rules and they disarm them of any kind, of the fight, right? You can't endorse a candidate. You can't do this. Just a long list of rules. But what we're doing in Palm Beach County is through the Holy Spirit, the grace of God, whatever you want to call it, a bunch of us all managed to connect over, and we've been working kind of side by side for like a couple of years now, and we really kind of gel together. So we're hitting every municipal, all 39 towns in Palm Beach County. We're serving them. We're demanding that a grand jury be convened at the county level. We have 12 supervisors of election candidates that are asking for the supervisor of elections they can't administer their own election. They can't do the Katie Hobbs, Brian Kemp trick, right? So we're asking also, we're going to ask Ashley Moody and other state attorney generals to move on the constitutional crisis of these illegal immigrants voting. And that's what we're doing. And we're going full steam. We have we have an endorsement. We have Colonel Doug McGregor. He's behind the movement. He's a Trump advisor. So we have his name on all of the forms that we submit, and we're raising hell, one municipality at a time.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah, we're gonna get this out nationwide. We're refining everything. It's I don't know if you heard the term writ of mandamus, right? Where you demand a grand jury. Now we're not talking about the craziness where you get like 12 of your besties and you go into the back room of the bar and you convene a grand jury. We're talking about demanding that the state, here's the evidence, and we were successful in a statewide grand jury, which took a very long time, but it was only the 22nd time in the history of Florida that the citizens convened, submitted the evidence for the grand jury, and they recommended indictment. The last time was 2010, when the corruption in Florida was so bad and not a lot of people know about this, but Florida is still bad. But 2010, there was a bit of a cleansing, and everything, a lot of remedies were made, everything but the judicial system. So go figure. But yeah, this is a great movement. There's a guy named Mike Zarzano, and he's been a catalyst. Mike, yeah, and it's funny when I say the grace of God, I would have never known Mike in Florida in my own backyard had I not met Jason, who's in Michigan.
Yeah.
I bash Mike Lindell a lot, and I really don't know how people who haven't seen this constitutional crisis, how there's an outcry. But I met so many great people through Donna, yourself. Oh no, I met you at Turning Point, but I met guys like Jason and a lot of other great people in the fight. Shane Snavely and Amanda Chase, Wendy Rogers, all these great people, and it's because of Mike Lindell. So as much as I bash him, and I think he's a pillow profiteer, he has done a lot of good.
He's part of the underpants gnomes.
That's so funny. It's really amazing how when you look at all of the connections, though, it's very evident that God is moving the connections together in order to bring people who have a heart for each other, for people, and for Him. It's a move of God. You can't explain it any other way because it seems too organized and deliberate.
It is. But, we have an opportunity here to heal the nation and to raise up some true champions in the course. And I feel like it's an honor to be at this particular crossroads in time, because this is when names are written in the history books for 1,000 years. This is the time when the metal actually hits the road. And this is a testament of our will and our determination. This is a perfect opportunity for people who really want to make a name for themselves, or who really want to prove their faith. It's an honor. It's really, that's what it is.
Or
you have
just
good times.
The right thing.
You got good times. You got hard times, and these are the hard times. And this is when the real
we were
women rise up and they show what this nation was really built on.
And we lost it a long time ago. I think it's and I just want to say, it's not about making a name. It's getting the country back on the right direction, which it hasn't been. And I think it's it's since the Fed came into play. It's since 1971 Nixon with getting off the gold standard, and we need to get a balanced budget, number one, so they can't print money, they can't drive us into debt. I made a comment like what's his name, J.R. Majewski from Ohio. He said he wants Congressman Corey Mills to be Secretary of State, and I went ballistic. And then Corey Mills attacked me, saying you don't have the receipts. So I went and I got the receipts. He owns an arms manufacturing company. He sells arms to Ukraine. His partner has a banner on Newsmax. She's an Iraqi national. It says United States of Iraq. She's his partner, and he listed on his House financials disclosure that the prior year to coming into Congress, he drew $300,000. It's called Pace M Arms. He has like 3 LLCs. One's like International Solutions, but bottom line is he drew $300,000 before coming into office, and the first year in office, he drew $1.3 million. And I said he's part of the military-industrial complex. They all laughed at me. J.R. Majewski and all these people were coming at me hard. Corey Mills himself, and then they went silent when I put the screenshot of of his partner with the United States of Iraq, and I showed his House disclosure forms where his arms company quadrupled in business in 1 year. I don't know. My business didn't quadruple in business in 1 year. And then there's articles that he will not admit. He will not declare what country he's selling arms to. So you have all of our taxpaying money being siphoned out, sent to Ukraine, no accountability, and you have a guy sitting in Congress who's a Fox News acolyte, and Majewski wants him to be Secretary of Defense.
You know what really irks me about all of that?
Well, that's got to be fixed.
You know what really irks me about that is those weapons are getting found in Mexico. Those weapons are being found in Mexico that are supposed to be being procured for Ukraine, and they're ending up in the hands of the cartel. You know those are going to be used to kill Americans. So they're over here profiteering, thinking they're fighting to kill Russians. Meanwhile, they're equipping the cartels to kill Americans.
Yes. Yeah. If you go to search Pace M weapons or Pace M munitions, Donna, and you'll see their website. Let's see. You probably get it up faster than me. I got like 19,000 things open. It's Pace M.
Defense.
Google Pace M Corey Mills. It'll come right up.
Hang on a second. I've got it right there.
Yeah. Now look at the name of the person. Yep.
Okay.
Now you're going to scroll down, and then about us, you're going to keep going. It's going to mention. So go back up. There's who I think it's the people involved. Or go up. Pace M Solutions. Who we are. Try our vision. If you scroll down, you should have a picture of this. Okay, yeah, the first one. I didn't even search the other guys. Just do a search on her. Copy paste that right there, Raina. You can right click right from there and search.
All right, let's see if I can do this.
Is that Rana Asaldi?
Yeah, you know her?
No, I'm trying to just. The name looked close to another name that I know.
Well, you're gonna love this. Newsmax. We want the Newsmax one. Put Newsmax next to the search, or scroll down, see if Newsmax comes up. Oh, right there. United States of Iraq. It's right there. And they want to. And Majewski's he's calling me. I'm a nut. I'm a this. I'm a that. Yeah, it's hard to get right to it. They kind of like, you saw the image, and she does seem like she was, an Iraqi who fled to the United States after the Gulf War. She's got a great story, but why does that person, second in charge of your arms company, United States of Iraq?
United States, that's crazy.
Right?
Well, the concern there in Iraq is that Iran controls the government in Iraq, and what just happened in Iran yesterday?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So, this is a problem, and these guys.
No, did you hear? Did you guys already?
Oh,
did I miss that?
We talked about the helicopter crash. Yeah. Yo, and then also what about
hold on.
Franco?
Hold on. Were there any bodies found?
No.
True. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
No,
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, so I was wondering about that too. Is that this seems awful convenient.
Yeah, no signs of life.
Really convenient.
No signs of life, right? No, we didn't find a body. There's no signs of death either.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't even find the helicopter crash for I don't know if they found it yet, but there's no signs of life. It seems a little bit reminiscent to me of JFK Jr.
Why were you flying a helicopter in zero visibility?
Yeah. And the whole thing is nutty. I hate to say it. It's like JFK Jr.'s plane crash. None of that makes sense.
There's.
Well, let me ask you.
Who knows?
But you can't fly a plane with a cast on your foot. Okay, I'm sorry. That was the declining statement right there. You got a cast on your foot, and you're going to tell me you're going to fly a little bitty plane? That ain't happening. Okay, that is not happening.
But how much power does the president of Iran have? Isn't the Ayatollah in control?
Well, right now he's dead, so none.
That I don't know. I don't understand. No, the Ayatollah though, isn't the Ayatollah pulling all the strings?
Well, so this is the interesting thing about the dynamics of this power. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because the next in line for the positions that were lost, I believe they're more radical. But we'll see as they get into those positions. This might actually precipitate harsher responses from Iran in regards to other things, other attacks. But now, not only that, but the Iranian media, or intelligence apparatus immediately was blaming Mossad. I wouldn't be surprised if the people who step into power this week, they immediately go full bore into retaliation, and they actually try to accuse Israel of downing the helicopter or something to justify initiating World War III. I wouldn't be surprised.
What about FICO? What about FICO? In a couple of days, two world leaders, two leaders of countries, or assassination. Are they setting us up? Are they normalizing this? So if they take out, they try to take out, God forbid, President Trump. Oh,
Abe in frickin' Japan. Dude, this has been going on. How about what was the other? Yeah. In the last 3 years, how many leaders of countries have been assassinated or died? It's insane. The destabilization of nations around the world right now is so high, and nobody in America seems to understand or even know how bad it is. Like, completely oblivious to the fact that like the rest of the world is on fire.
I'll tell you, I'm concerned about Thursday when President Trump does this rally in the Bronx. He's doing a rally in the South Bronx. And I predict 1 million. I predict like 750,000 people. They're saying 200,000. If they drew 100,000 down in Wildwood, I mean, yeah. Look at this.
Ask and you shall receive. Here you go. So here we go. We're gonna go. That's crazy.
Yeah, Abe was 2 years ago. Well, Haiti. They don't even have the current ones.
No.
Oh, see, it's cut off there.
Stopped at 2022. So this site is a little lacking here. Let's see what else we can find there.
And then what happened in Congo?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Where?
Congo.
Oh, what happened there?
Do you remember what happened in Venezuela with Silvercorp?
No.
No.
Is that when everything went to the crapper and the inflation and then everything Milei's fixing?
There's a real interesting video about it, but it ends with, did Maduro set up these Green Berets to take the fall for trying to do a coup in Venezuela so he could tighten his grip on power?
That's been done before, right? Historically, right? How
about the Whitmer Fednapping?
What's it called? Whitmer Fed mapping?
Whitmer setting up these guys to have a media event because she's got no freaking content. If you listen to this woman talk, she's like no content whatsoever.
That's why I call her Witless Whitmer.
Yeah, that's about correct. So we had to stage a fake kidnapping to get something in the news because oh no, pity me, I'm being kidnapped. Yeah, no, you're not. You got the feds working for you to make it look like it, and then targeting individuals. Yeah,
it's just fed napping. Like, yes. I thought you said mapping, like a map. They were mapping out. Yeah,
I was tracking it, Jason. I was tracking you.
Yeah, and then you got the Fedsurrection.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Oklahoma City bombing, which I don't believe any of that. McVeigh was from Michigan. That was like another nonsense. And he was kind of tied into those guys that they were targeting for the Whitmer Fednapping. And then you got the J6 nonsense, which that's another Fedsurrection.
Then what got us here with FISA and the Patriot Act, 9/11?
Which is Hoekstra. Hoekstra in the state of Michigan signed that stupid thing twice. And so everybody wants to, pity. It's like, no, you don't sign an issue like that twice without knowing what the heck you're doing. And I hate to say it. I'm going to say it because I'm part Dutch, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. We've got the Dutch mafia going on here like crazy. The D's, the Straws, the all of it. That's all Dutch. Okay. I'm not saying all Dutch people are bad. Okay. I'm part Dutch, right? But I'm going to tell you what, it just seems a little convenient here that we've got, Ingas, all of this it's crazy.
Well, the timing of all of that and the consolidation of power, the setting up of Department of Homeland Security, which is gradually taking over more and more sectors of control away from other cabinets, is basically centralized the entire presidential cabinet under one person, Alejandro Mayorkas, and the director of DHS as the director of DHS, which means they've centralized all of those different positions that would have been decentralized and somewhat compartmentalized. And now you've got one person calling the shots. One of the arguments that was made, it was during the Trump administration, they wanted to pull Secret Service out of DHS. That had happened under Obama, and Trump tried to remove them out of DHS and was unsuccessful. So Alejandro Mayorkas is responsible for the Secret Service.
Oh, that's comforting now, isn't it?
He's responsible for a lot of things.
If something happens to President Trump, we can point right back to the failure point, a central figure failure point, and now conspirator.
Now I want you to look up this Iranian spy ring infiltrates, and just do a search on that.
Oh, the DNI, right? The 11 of the 17, right? Something like that, run by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh man, there's all kinds of stuff there. Which one do you go to? Like Real Clear Politics?
You can pick any one. It doesn't matter. The point is if you look it up, we have been infiltrated by a hostile Iranian regime that has sought to gain influence within our political infrastructure, and they have been successful.
Well, look at all the players that are involved, like Valerie Jarrett and Aberdeen. And there's Clapper had some connections there, and so did you could run down the list of all the people in our nation that are in positions that have connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, to say that, now watch all the Muslims go out there and go crazy. My doctor's a Muslim and they're normal, right? Okay, it's not like a hate-filled. It's like anything else. It's like these people are being paid to put on a burqa or something else like that. It's just like the students that are protesting. I don't even believe that they believe in what they're protesting. I think they're being paid. I think these people that are putting on a disguise of some sort, whether it's under a religious mantra or, save the whales or whatever. I don't even know if these people actually believe in it or if they're all being paid. And so I don't think these people are actual Muslims any more than Mossad is actually Jewish, or you know what I mean? It's just a disguise for disruption.
They got new uniforms. They turned in the BLM uniforms and the Antifa uniforms, and now they got the Palestinian garb.
And now they all switch around. It's like they all switch around. All they gotta do is change their outfit. And man, I can be Muslim today. I can be Jewish tomorrow. I can be a student protesting Palestine. I can be protesting the whales. I can do whatever. That's what they do. They're paid. It's crazy.
So is Steph coming on?
I don't know. She's supposed to come on. I'm glad you guys are here still talking, because she sent me a message that said that she was tied up with something. So I'm going to be real patient here and see when she comes on. We may just take a pause here and stop the cameras at some point in time. And then I'll just let the broadcast play and then I'll cut it down later.
There's still more to talk about on the side of this whole thing. I don't think I've even addressed. Have I discussed the whole SolarWinds thing yet? Have you guys?
A little bit, but go ahead. Let's
I hit on that a million times.
Yeah.
Oh, the connection with Krebs and the explode and Nashville. What about the Nashville bombing? When they couldn't get to everything through the breach, they decided we got to go and blow up the data center.
who owned that building?
AT&T, didn't they?
Yeah.
Be-
Who
No?
was it? No, it was the people. Was it? I know it was connected. I forgot who.
How about who is the mutual fund that
Who was
owned
it?
that company?
Well,
'Cause
there
that
you
was-
go. The funding.
Silver Lake.
BlackRock?
Silver Lake.
BlackRock.
That's a fun rabbit hole. Why don't you guys at some point look down that one, because they are involved in a bunch of stuff. And if you go down and look at all their investments, it's pretty interesting. But what I wanted to say about SolarWinds is that it wasn't just Orion; it was also the ServU service that was compromised, and to this day, it hasn't been fixed. So
Oh, hey, this is interesting.
there is an
Right.
SEC lawsuit right now against SolarWinds.
Yeah, you broke Jason.
What?
I hear you fine.
So you broke up. You said it wasn't just Orion. You for a second there. You said it wasn't just Orion. It was a service or something. I missed that.
Yes, it was the server U or ServU service from SolarWinds. That is their FTP. It's their managed file transfer protocol. And that service is so full of holes in its security that a separate SEC lawsuit was brought against SolarWinds over the absolute failure in its security. So they made their CISO made claims of their security being top notch, and that was part of their securing government contracts for this is just ridiculous. The Treasury Department. You guys know what the Treasury Department does?
Steals from the American people.
How about they
that?
manage the census? How about they manage the census? How about they know they're the only arm of the entire government that has the authority to knock on every person's door? Every single person has to answer the census, part of the Constitution, constitutionally required. You have to answer the census. So that way the government can properly allocate funding to manage the people. So the Treasury Department was breached in the SolarWinds Orion hack. If all of the Census Bureau's data, which includes PII, personally identifiable information, was compromised, how hard or how easy would it be to simulate elections? How difficult would it be to aggregate commercial data on top of that data? Would it be to run AI algos on the likely propensity of certain voters and certain issues? How hard would it be to model entire districts and find out what issues are the issues that cause voters to flip, and which specific people you would have to target? I mean, the level of granularity on their on all of the potential metrics that are out there, elections don't matter, because at the end of the day, if you have every single detail on every single person, you can do such manipulative measures to coerce people on both sides of the aisle, no matter where they're at, by hitting them on their trigger issues. And you can tailor someone's response by specifically messaging them on the one issue that they care about more than anything else. And the crazy thing is when you actually step back and you look at the messaging on things like X, right? I really enjoy doing this. When people attack someone, I go and click on their account, and then I look at all the things they've liked and replies that they've made. And then I also look at the people they follow or follow them. So I take a few minutes, I do a real quick scan and just see if is this person a legitimate person? Is it a bot? And then is it somebody that is like just a troll, or is this a legitimate person making legitimate comments or statements of concern? And you find out real quick that the people who make those comments are a lot of them come from they're actors. I mean, it was real interesting seeing the statements being made on my post from people who work for Goldman Sachs. Like you make some certain statements, and then all of a sudden you get a post, and then you go and look at where those people are, who they work for, where they're from, and you're like, oh wow, I triggered that person with that comment, and this is where they work. This is so this is the where they're coming from in their retaliation or their angst or their so that tells you right there the bucket of people you're against by making certain statements. So if you're talking about the Federal Reserve, who are you triggering, right? Who's defending the Federal Reserve, right? That kind of stuff. Well, how about the environmentalist stuff? If you go and start talking about environmentalists, and then you go tit for tat on who's a bigger environmentalist, and then you go and look at their profile, and all they do is trash talk certain political candidates, then you start to realize this guy's just a troll, right?
Yeah, I you said something a few minutes ago that really triggered me. Something that you said was, could the simulation? They could literally simulate the entire election and just have all this this nonsense that's out there with the ballots and such being a way to distract us. And this whole thing could have been run by AI, complete simulation. Besides the fact that they're flipping it by programming, AI can simulate the whole thing.
You heard Jeff talk about VR systems and AI, didn't you?
Yes.
What about the company that I got to be careful what there's certain things that aren't in the public domain yet. So there are companies that work in AI that work in election systems.
Out there.
Absolutely.
Including VR systems, and there's others. They have the ability to do just like we were talking about, but with all these back doors left in these systems. Think about what you just said.
They can simulate the whole thing. And I mean, there can be no truth to the absentee ballots because they don't matter. They can just be a distraction. They could simulate absolutely every part of this and then just sit there and laugh about it. Well, when you look at the predicted results for Tudor Dixon in Grand Rapids or in Michigan here, it was absolutely, a week beforehand, they were publishing the results and it went on several media outlets. The entire election could be simulated.
They put my results out
Brandenburg just
Friday before the Tuesday of the election, saying I came in.
You know what? Sometimes I'm a little bit slow on things, but I think we hit gold right there. That we need some questions answered, and big ones. Is there, besides the fact that the fine grain how they're cheating it may not even matter. This entire thing could become a complete simulation just based on looking at what areas that are easiest to cheat on and feed the numbers in the system.
You only need to do
like
very
380,000 images.
If you know exactly where you can target, if you look, once you run the models, it's a lot easier to see the whole picture when you have all that data.
Well, this is making a lot more sense to me right now, because when I look back at 2016, one of the things that we figured out when I was in the research networks is why they expected Hillary Clinton to win was because they had already figured out how to cheat it. And the reason why Donald Trump won is because they only had to make the election machines honest in about 11 different counties across the United States. If they had made them all honest, it would have been such an overwhelming win that it would have blown people's mind. And I believe that to be true. I believe that there was 11 counties that were made honest, and they did it in a good way. I think the probability of that is very high, because they've been rigging our elections through all sorts of means for decades.
Oh yeah.
But it's gotten really significant right now, because significantly they can make this entire thing AI generated.
But you got to realize too, not everything has to be rigged in the tallies or the votes or the paper. If you've got favorable candidates that are all groomed by your cohort of cadre out recruiting candidates, you don't need to. If there's no competition, there's nobody running against them, you don't need to rig anything. So like the first layer of this whole thing is the campaign consultants. Who's the campaign managers? Who's the recruiters? Who are out there building this cohort of candidates? And why aren't there more people who actually care about the country running for office instead of people who are looking for prestige or financial windfalls or the like? Right?
It's an industry, and they protect their little industry. And I hate to say it, but it's the same structure that you see in Freemasons. And so, there's a vetting process. If you don't make it past level 3, that's kind of a badge of honor for anybody that got in there. It's a compromised one, because you were stupid enough to get into that organization in the first place. But if you make it past 3, it's because they found out that you can be compromised and manipulated. Saw the same thing in the Republican Party. They're vetting people, and unless they can manipulate you and you will go after chasing the money and anything else like that, you do not pass go. You do not collect $200. You go completely not to jail, but kicked right off the island. And they won't have anything to do with you, because they only want puppets in place that they can threaten, coerce, compromise. I mean, firsthand, I saw it. And it's the same exact system as the Masons.
Well, it's like any club, right? Who is the comedian that said it's a club and you're not in it?
George Carlin.
George Carlin. That's right.
George Carlin. Yeah.
It's a big club and you ain't in it.
Can you put my screen up a minute, Donna?
Let's see. I got to take that one down. Hang on a minute. I sure can. Here we go.
I'm still presenting, right? Yeah.
Justice Department.
So this, look at the date of this memo.
2022.
November 7th, 2022.
The same day Betsy DeVos resigned.
The day before the 2022 election. And these are the counties where they're going to dispatch. They're going to dispatch the feds to make sure that there's no civil rights violations. Now let's take a look at the counties. You talk about you only have to manipulate a few counties. Now, first of all, why is Alaska 4 different voting jurisdictions? And I believe this is to keep the same senators, because there's less voters in Alaska than one congressional district. So you could just do a little bit of thievery in Alaska and you could control like 4% of the Senate, right? We have rhinos in Murkowski and who's the other one? They're not doing us any favors. Now, Arizona, first on the list, Maricopa, right? So this is like they're telegraphing where they're going. Look at Michigan, Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids, Pontiac, Southfield. I mean, it's all here. They're brazen. Cuyahoga. What did I mention about the 2012 election? Cuyahoga, 110% voter turnout. That gave Obama Ohio, which in turn gave Obama the election.
What's the site there, Jeff?
This is the Department of Justice's own website. If you search U.S. DOJ 24 states, you'll get it. I mean, I could put this in the chat too.
Hang on, got it. Okay, I'm gonna put it on my Telegram channel.
And I watched this. If you look at 18, it was like it's 64 jurisdictions back then and 24 states. Back then it was like 18 states and only 34 jurisdictions. So they're getting deeper and deeper in.
Yep. But so this goes to the centralization of elections, and something I wanted to talk about in regards to HAVA and the motor voter. There's an amendment, the SAFE, I believe it was SAFE or SAVE Act that was
SAFE.
passed. Yeah, it was right after the congressional hearing in 2019 or end of 2019. December of 2019, and then in January of 2020, there were congressional communications and hearings with the voting machine vendors about several different issues. And one of the big issues that even a Democrat was running the committee, and it passed. They from all these hearings and all the information they got, they actually passed a act in the House, and it went to the Senate, and it just died in the Senate. But you would think a bill that was bipartisan and led by Democrats, that as soon as they took control after the 2020 election, 2021, that would have been the first thing that they would have introduced in the Senate the following year and passed, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge win. Let's fix the elections, blah, blah, blah. And look, all these people are concerned about the elections. The best thing we can do is pass this right away to show that we care about having free, fair, and transparent elections. But what they do? Radio silence, yeah. This is the standard operating procedure of Congress, is to have these fallacies of victories where we voted on this thing and we've got some fake victory of passing this thing that's all gaslighting. It's gaslighting extraordinaires is what they are.
Speaking of gaslighting, our next guest is here. I'm going to bring her on. Stefanie Lambert's here to join us. Hey, Stefanie, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Donna?
Good. I wanted to join you in on the conversation here because we got a lot to talk about. So I've got Jeff and Jason Ickes here, and wanna see how you're doing.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. Before we get started, Donna, I just wanted to give you a quick little update. I went to Washington, D.C. last week, and the court has given a ruling for the moment. This is where Dominion is trying to remove me as Patrick Byrne, my client's attorney, and the court needs to rule on that still. But in the meantime, I cannot discuss any of the Dominion discovery that was given to law enforcement. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm real clear on that for this conversation, that I can't discuss that. Okay, so if that helps, and so I really want to, I know Jason's on and Jeff. I want to be clear if they're on, that I've never met Jeff. Nice to meet you. That I can't discuss any. Okay, so maybe we could guide the conversation in a way that we, don't go into those files. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna let you direct where you want to go. I mean, that's where I always go. I don't come on here to hang people and just give people the ability to talk. And it was such a pleasure to be there to record the hearing in Michigan here. And it was nice to see you again. And I really appreciate your personality, your demeanor, your professionalism, and your no back down attitude. It was a pleasure to be there and witness that.
Well, thank you, Donna. And I appreciate you. You're the only one I think that covers the significant news right when it happens.
Well, I got to tell you what happened when I was there. So the one guy from Fox 47, Mr. Smug that was sitting there, can't say I appreciated his personality too much. And we were talking about things before you got there. And he goes, I don't know what to think about this. And I said, I know what to think about this. I said, this is exactly what's going on. They're trying to disable Stefanie Lambert from representing anyone having to do with the election fraud that's going on. And I'm going to say the word. You don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. And he's like, well, I don't know about that. And I said, that's because you don't do anything. I said, none of you people out there in mainstream media has the guts to cover this thing because you're all being told what to do. All a bunch of lapdogs that don't want to cover the truth. And that was Craig Mauger was there. He's another one he should be just named out the secretary for the Republican Party, and not in a good way, right? And or the Demo. I mean, this is the uniparty secretary happening right there, and the same thing with the guy. And then I watched how they treated you, and I put the report or the video out on how they treated you when you were answering their questions. You were wonderful. You were professional. You laid it out there and said, this is part of a case. And they would not stop hounding you and hammering you. You know what? If they would have been kids in a classroom and I would have been a teacher, I would have been like, y'all are in permanent timeout until you learn how to be a decent human being who actually cares about this nation. That's what I told the guy from 47. I said, the problem is I said, you don't care about this nation. We're watching this nation burn, and all you people want to do is further tear it down. I thought you were spectacular.
Well, Donna, I appreciate that you cover truth and transparency and don't have an agenda when you're doing it. So I love that. So Washington, D.C. went well. We're waiting on a ruling report there. That went very, very well. As soon as I have the transcript, I'd like to go over that on your show. There's some interesting pieces from the transcript that I thought were interesting that Dominion argued, but we'll save that for another day. And I wanted to just see what kind of questions you had today on updates.
Well, I don't have a lot of questions. I just wanted to have you share what you thought was significant. The biggest thing that I thought was significant, and I heard it out of your mouth several times when we were in Hillsdale, was the fact that this is going to open the door to put Nessel and Benson on the stand.
We're excited for that. I'm so sorry. I'm sick.
Oh, you know what? It's going around, isn't it? I've been coughing my head off there a little bit too. So last week.
It's those DC germs.
Criminal cooties is what it is. Criminal cooties. You're spending a lot of time with criminals, so.
Well, I'm excited to put Benson and Nessel on the stand in Hillsdale. They opened the door to that. But today we had a hearing. Excuse me for 1 second.
No worries. So I had that last week, Jeff, where I was a week ago or so, and man, I'm telling you what, I was coughing like crazy. So I get this.
Sorry.
No worries.
So we had the Michael Butts hearing this morning where the Secretary of State intervened regarding the EPB data FOIAs. Michael Butts did a FOIA request for every city and township within Macomb asking for the EPB data. The Secretary of State has intervened and said, no, we'll do that, Judge. The Secretary of State will do that. And told the cities and townships that they can't comply with the FOIA request.
They denied mine here in Byron Township.
Well, that's illegal for the Secretary of State to do that. And what the data shows is the Secretary of State's data, the cities and townships fulfill the data. Okay. So that's a huge issue and a motivation as to why the Secretary of State's intervening and doing that. So I filed a very good brief that was like 600 pages with attachments and exhibits laying out for the court why the cities and townships need to fulfill this. It's their obligation. Like a week later, I don't even think I'd have to look at the timeline. Stefanie Scott and I got charged in Hillsdale, right? So it's quite a coincidence, right? Stefanie Scott had just announced she's running for the Hillsdale County Clerk. I'm going down to the Dominion hearing in DC, right, where they want to argue there's this fictitious pattern of conduct. They argued to try to get me removed as counsel for Patrick Byrne. Conduct that they continue to try to create, right? They, these working with the Attorney General of Michigan, she tried to sanction me, grieve me. I won all those. Every single time I have a new case, they come with some new accusation and something I have to fight. So the timing of that was more than a coincidence, right? And then I file this brief, and then Stefanie Scott and I get charged. And so Stefanie Scott has an affidavit in that Butts brief which is attachment C. If you want to look at it, it's public record, where she's talking about the and how it doesn't match the state records. And she started as clerk questioning the qualified voter roll, which she's required to do under law as the clerk. Michigan's decentralized. And as soon as she started doing that, she started getting attacked by the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. And that's when I began representing her, when she started getting attacked for asking questions and actually looking at the data that she's required to look at by law and refusing to delete data in violation of law at their direction. So the timing is no coincidence. So I really appreciate you covering all of this. And we're actually looking forward to this case because we're going to have truth and transparency before a jury, which is fantastic. We'll get to use the opportunity to educate a jury and show their lawlessness and how we haven't done anything wrong. I'm Stefanie's attorney, and I'm, acting as an attorney, and I'm required to tell her to follow the law, which we've done. So we're looking forward to that case, and I appreciate you covering it. So every time I do this, I get attacked. And as you can see, there's major issues you've been covering for years with these elections, and we do need attorneys to cover it. And so what's happened since, we started, the news needs to cover it. The attorneys need to advocate for the clients, in alignment with the Constitution, that we have an oath to uphold. So attorneys, they've attempted through these sanctions and grievances to silence attorneys, which has been effective largely throughout the country, where attorneys are afraid to even consider representing clients on these cases. They've silenced the media, which prevents anyone from being educated or learning about the issues and correcting it. And they've convinced the general public that there's nothing to see here, which has allowed multiple election cycles to go on where there's corruption that's involved. So, and it's not a partisan issue. I think you and I have always agreed on that, right? I don't think the Republicans have the answer. I don't think the Democrats have the answer. To me, it was never a partisan issue. It's how are our elections functioning? Are they fair and accurate? And do they reflect the will of the people without any process involved that dilutes one vote in violation of law? And that's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate everything you've done. And I'm kind of perplexed on why attorneys who are supposed to be there fighting would back out of a challenge like this to stand up for something because it's a righteous cause. If it's all about money, enjoy your 3 pieces or your 30 pieces of silver out there, people, because there are things that are bigger than fame, fortune, whatever you want to say, that we should all be fighting for. And it's a disgrace on those attorneys who've turned their backs on people who really truly will stand for this nation.
Well, there's that, Donna, but I think the news really did a disservice by, continuing to cover a false narrative, right? That it was
Absolutely.
so the attorneys, without looking at data, in fairness, don't know that there's real issues. But they do know if they put their name on a case that they're going to get a grievance and a request for sanctions, which is terrifying because that shuts down their ability to support their family and work. So, to some extent, they're like, let someone else handle it. And then if you look at all of the township and municipalities that have representation, those attorneys get threatened by the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. So, that's their business. They represent those communities. And so they have to analyze, okay, do I want to lose all of my business, right? If the Secretary of State or the Attorney General comes after me, right? And they usually have a limited scope of what they work on for a city or township. And these are very unique, complex issues that require a lot of research that they just don't have experience with. And I know that because I've reviewed some of the emails from these municipal attorneys where they're telling the clerks, listen, I'm not specialized in this. I don't even know how to answer that question. And so they're disclosing that. So they're not really even qualified to look at it. So that's why, Dominion wants me removed as Patrick Byrne's attorney. I've been working on this for a number of years for, a number of different clients. And I have now a specialized knowledge that I didn't have several years ago on election law and how these elections are functioning, that I look at the case from a different lens and have my prior experience where I look at it and I can see right through what's happening and know what to look at and do on the case.
This has really been quite a learning experience, I think, for everybody in America to go through and see what the reality is that's been going on for decades, truly, in the manipulation of our elections. I mean, you can't come in and steal a country or overthrow a country from away from we the people without having a pretty decent organized structure in place.
And it's sad that they continue to lie to the population. Like if you look at Detroit 2020, right, when they made it about Biden or Trump, that became like a, contentious, conversation to have, right? They made it political, and it was never political. It's what's happening and how to address it, and are the votes being counted properly? So Monica Palmer, as a canvasser, I'm sure you remember, wanted to say, wait, let's pause. I see data that doesn't align and reconcile. I need to figure that out. And then Yehuda Miller, my client, went in and did a FOIA request for all of the data for 2020 from Detroit. So in 2023, when Spokane Forensics was retained to look at that FOIA data, we found up to 35,000 fraudulent ballots and precincts that had more envelopes than ballots and more ballots than envelopes and different paper. And the workers that are fulfilling the FOIA request are even saying, this is different paper. This is different font. This is, they're disclosing they see issues and they don't care. They're just fulfilling a FOIA, right? And, they're willing to talk, and that's just their job, to fulfill the FOIA. They don't have any stake in it. And Spokane Forensics, if you remember, was the state's expert for 20 years and the city of Detroit's expert for 20 years on contract. So his credibility, they can't possibly attack it. That's the firm that they've used, right? So they've never updated that in the media. They've never gone, to say, hey, wait, we called this, a false narrative, and, they're safe and secure. And now we see this expert report that's really concerning. They've never said that, right? They just continue to try to tarnish my reputation. So when you take it piece by piece and look at what did they say then and what does the evidence show, that's a real problem. We don't have journalists reporting that. And so I very much appreciate you doing that.
Well, I thank you very much. I really think that myself and most of the people that are watching this broadcast would not stay with it if they really weren't looking for the truth. Because, we hit some pretty hard issues, and some days that we're not making friends on here with these people because we're going to call these systems and call things out so that we know what we have to fight with. What else would you like to talk about today? Because I don't want to ask a question that could go into an uncomfortable situation for you, because I have tremendous respect for you.
Well, thank you, Donna. I won't say whether or not I agree with what the court has said at this point. I can always address that in briefs, but I do need to abide by it at the moment. So I can't go into the Dominion files, but I just want to say, all of these attacks, I've been able to prove that not only, are they wrong, but I was right. And that will continue to happen. So I appreciate everyone that continues to pursue truth and transparency and be supportive. And Stephanie, Scott, and I very much appreciated a packed courtroom the other day. That was really nice to see, because that shows people are following. They want the data. They want the law. That's what matters here, right? And it's very confusing when we have an attorney general's office. My goodness. I mean, I think you heard him compare me to some like habitual child molester.
Oh, it was outrageous. Yeah. This guy. Okay. So can I have a little bit of a rant on this?
Sure.
The
Yeah.
prosecutor, what is his name? It's
that was Richard Cunningham that was there.
Richard Cunningham.
I believe Shunas that signed the sham warrant, not looking at the law. But
right.
Yeah, right.
So Cunningham doesn't even have the guts to show up where everybody else was driving from all over the state to show up on this important proceeding. And he comes in on a video conference. This is what they do. They hide because he's gutless and he won't show up and have to face we the people. That's what I saw happening there. The people that I talked to that before the proceeding started were absolutely angry, out of their mind angry at the proceedings that were going on, where both you and Stefanie Scott were clearly being targeted. And they knew what was going on. They weren't buying the mainstream nonsense. They weren't buying the narrative, and all of them. I did not talk to one that had any support for what was going on from the prosecutor's office, from Nessel's office. Everyone was absolutely outraged by what was going on, except for the two media guys there that were just there to harass you, basically, and put forth the narrative from their little overlords. You know, that's what was pretty evident there. But your overwhelming support there was really incredible.
It was, and I get it every day. People send me really nice messages, and they're following, and I think that's wonderful. But I was just appalled at. I knew what they were doing was corrupt. Okay, I knew that their goal was to remove me from all of these cases and from being a voice for clients and being their advocate.
They were trying to take away your livelihood too,
right,
and your ability to fight. I mean, everything. They were trying to absolutely disable you.
Right, but I never thought that they would actually say it. Right, that part was shocking to me. I mean, I knew it was corrupt, but he literally said that, Judge, we want her removed from any election-related case in the United States. Right?
Yeah, and he said you should have the same punishment as a pedophile. And
not
everybody in the room,
right, by the way,
dropped.
Right. Yeah. So, he's like, it's like a habitual drunk driver, right? Like, and I'm like, I haven't been convicted of anything, and I won't be, because I haven't done anything wrong, and the process will play out. So, but I couldn't believe that they actually said it. That was shocking. They were willing to just say it to the court to like show exactly where they were coming from. Like, we have to remove her from these cases. She's too effective. She knows too much, right? We have to remove her. And so thankfully the judge followed the law on that. And the judge's face, I don't know if you could see the judge's face, but she was like shocked at what he was saying. And, I don't know if she rolled her eyes, but it was along those lines. It appeared to me that she thought it was just outrageous what the Attorney General's office was trying to accomplish there, and said, no, it's not going to happen. So anyway, I thought that
like a nice judge. I mean, the judge herself seemed like she was, she was doing her job, trying to anyhow, but I don't.
A judge following the law is great. I lose you. Yeah. So, like, that's all anyone can ask for, is the judge to follow the law. And in time, the jury will see that as well. So, we followed the law. We'll present the case, and truth and transparency will take place. So, but I appreciate it. And I don't want to keep you down. I know you only had it slated till 11 and I have an appointment. But I appreciate you having me on. And as soon as I have a transcript, and I have, clear boundaries on what I can talk about, I'd like to come back on.
Yes, anytime. I'll put you on anytime you want to be on, because I think the elections, free and fair elections, are the most singular, most issue we have going on right now, because everything falls down from that. All of our other problems would be corrected if we actually were able to run the nation the way that we, the people, want it run. And our voices are silenced. They're going after all of our rights, as well as grabbing our land. I don't know if you've heard about my little trip up to Grayling last week, but it was all about the DNR. That's the one kind of one of the kingpins up there. They're slashing all of the trees all over the state and leaving an environmental hazard up there, as well as unchecked power and such. But all of this is put in place because we don't have free and fair elections. They're rigging it. So this is where you're fighting, is the fight of our lives right there. If we have free and fair elections, the border security would be in place. All of these problems, even the social problems that we have, could be quickly resolved if we stopped all this money laundering that these criminals that are sitting in the seats are engaged in, because Michigan is one great big money laundering area, and it's a crazy. I'm gonna bring Jeff on just for 1 second here. Hey, Jeff. See if he's paying attention.
Hey, Steph, thank you for everything you do. I'm here.
Well,
Thank you
it's so
for
nice.
everything you do,
Yeah.
Steph. It's your
Thank you. So nice to meet
your
you.
fighter.
Well, I want to just make sure everybody's
Same here,
connected here
same
so
here.
that we know each other. And everybody that's fighting together, you know, Jason and you, Stefanie, and Jeff, and so many wonderful people out there. And I think it gives people a lot of hope to see that it's not what they're seeing in the news. It's not what they're seeing. You know, a lot of what we're seeing is just made up nonsense. That's all it is. There are real human beings, real people, not AI, you know, people like you and, you know, you guys and myself who are fighting this every single day because it is important and it's worth fighting for. And the people that are out there, I would like to ask everyone that's out there watching this to please pass this information on about, you know, what Stefanie's doing, what Jeff's doing, what Jason's doing to your networks and such. You know, we're all doing, you know, we at BNN, we're doing this all for free just because we believe in the United States. We believe in fighting for the world that God gave us to take care of. And is there any way that people can help you, Stefanie, what can they do to help you?
You know, I think, you know, I don't, I'm sorry. I'll be better soon.
How about a bottle? I got an idea. A bottle of Robitussin. How about a bottle of Robitussin FedEx to you?
Funny. I think continuing to educate themselves, right, and getting involved themselves. That's everyone always asks, "What can I do?" Right? What's going to happen? I'm like, you are what's going to happen. What are you going to do? What are you going to learn today? Who are you going to talk? That needs to happen. It can
give them a task that they can help Stefanie Lambert with.
You know, I think showing up to court and continuing to learn and be present. For example, Washington, D.C., that was not on Zoom. Some hearings are on Zoom and live in the courtroom, but not that one. And so really the only people that got that information directly and got to hear the hearing were the ones sitting in the courtroom. So I think we need people that have time going to courtrooms and listening and watching what the courts are doing and actually making sure that the process is working as it's supposed to function and the law is being followed. So I really appreciated everyone packing the courtroom. And I think throughout the process and continuing to educate their friends and neighbors, that's what they can do.
That's awesome. Do you have a place where we can go to follow where you're going to be so that people can show up for you?
You know, I think I'll probably have someone post that on social media when we have court hearings. We had one this morning. It was put over for 3 weeks because the attorney general is on that case. It's related to EPB data by FOIA. And I was ready to argue the case. And after I filed my brief, Stephanie Scott, who's a witness on the case, and filed an affidavit, and I'm the attorney for Michael Butts, we both got charged. So I said, Judge, I need to brief the issue of MCL 49158 for the court so the court can see, you know, the attorney general's role in a civil litigation and its, outcome that it's asking the court to give the attorney general and dismiss the case. And now that they've done this criminal information on Stephanie Scott and I, it's called a criminal complaint. I want to brief that issue for the court regarding a conflict of interest and disqualifying the attorney general's office. So I'll continue to update, but that's pretty important, right? If that case goes to trial, now the attorney general, you know, is going to stand there and argue, well, Stefanie Lambert, the attorney, is charged, and this witness here is also charged, right? So, I mean, that's interesting what they did there and corrupt and wrong, in my opinion. But I'll have to litigate that through a brief and, you know, let the court know what's happening.
Wow. Well, there you go, guys. There's your homework for today is follow her on social media. You're on X right now. I know that because I follow you on X. So I'll grab a post on X and I'll throw it on my Telegram channel and repost it on X. I typically repost the stuff that you put out there too, Jeff, because I know that both of you are reliable and you're truth seekers. You want the truth out there. So I'd like to ask, you know, everybody to go to their Twitter or their X accounts and follow them. Are you anywhere else besides X? You're muted.
You want me for the 11 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm on X. I don't really manage my social media very, often. Other people do it for me. And so you'll know, Donna, you can post it.
Okay. I'll post
follow,
that.
Follow,
Thank you.
Follow Patrick Byrne.
There you go.
Patrick Byrne has
follow Patrick Byrne.
a lot of information about many things.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Patrick's a fun guy. So
he's awesome.
Yeah, he is awesome. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Stefanie, for coming on. I'm going to let you go. I know you got to be on another interview, and then I'll finish it out with Jeff here today. But everybody will be praying for you, and you've got a tremendous support, my friend. So have a great day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
So it's back to you and
great.
I, Jeff. She's amazing, isn't she? I've got a court thing that's coming on. And let me grab this a minute, because we have a little girl that was a child that was abducted in Tennessee by CPS. And I really would like to, I'm going to put the Zoom, I'll put the Zoom message on, and we're going to broadcast that as soon as they go on. I thought it was earlier, but it's going to be at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. So as soon as they snap that on for, the court, we're going to go ahead and we're going to live stream. We're going to live stream this for everybody to see what exactly is happening down there, because Governor Lee should be stepping into this one, because this is outrageous what's happening. The dad was a J6er. The company, or the mom and dad, have absolutely been targeted, and it's just a shame. I'm gonna go jump in a Webex here.
Run that by me.
Well, the dad was in the gulag. The dad was in the gulag. So the mom brought the daughter over to Nashville to go to a Christian concert there in one of the venues, one of the bars there. The daughter she's autistic, started acting up a little bit. There were two women there that basically, I want to know who the hell these women are, because it doesn't make sense to me. They called in CPS in effect down there, and they kidnapped the child. Well, the mom has been fighting this for 16 months now, this girl that was kidnapped by Tennessee CPS, taken away from their parents, even though there was really no problem going on there. They didn't even look at the fact that she was autistic. Takes this child away from this family. It's targeted for the J6ers for persecution, no question. The mom ends up being able to prove that she should be back in Colorado. Goes and gets the child. They arrest her in Missouri and post bond at $100,000. Tom finally gets his wife out, but Tennessee sends this chick over there to grab the daughter and bring her back to Tennessee, where they made several stops on the way back to Tennessee from Missouri. The girl has got scars all over her body from harm that happened to her in the case, or in the custody of Tennessee. And what really set the mom and dad off is they inserted at 14 years old semi-permanent birth control into her arm, which are some questions of getting this back. When I look at what's happened to this, there's no question that this child, in my opinion, has been trafficked through CPS in Tennessee, and nobody's doing nothing. So they get on on a call last Friday, or it was a Friday before, I guess. They get on a call and on her visitation. And she said, I want you to talk to Don. And I'm like, how you doing? Are you liking it there? She goes, no, I want to go home. The girl did. I want to go home. She's articulate. She can talk. And so we were talking for a few minutes. Then the heavy stomping boots of the prison matrons there come in the room. They cut the feed, and they cut all communication from the parents and the child to be able to talk to her. And there was no court order that said that she couldn't talk to anybody else. Everything has been completely off the rails with this child and this family. There's no way you can look at this and not say this is targeting. So I'm going to try to put this Webex thing up. What's that?
So the case is in Colorado. The case is in Colorado.
It should be, but they're keeping. Yeah, Colorado, she should be returned to the state of where they reside. But they didn't do that. They put her up in Tennessee and they won't let her leave. It's absolutely nonsense. So I'm like, I put her up and I'm like going, we'll go ahead and live stream this because they literally will not let the truth be out there, be told. And I'm like, I'm still in the screw all of them mindset because they're all criminals.
Wow.
Yep. So I'm trying to get, like, hang on a minute. Let's see if it'll let me join the meeting here. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for them to start the meeting, and then I'm going to flip the cameras on and so that people can see what's happening in this hearing. So, I mean, this is how I don't understand. It's like we were talking with Stefanie. I don't understand. I guess I do understand because they're part of it. They're paid activists. They're paid, and that's a big problem. The news media is all bought and paid for. The fake media, the ones that are going after the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. They're fake. It's all fake. They're rigging it just like the elections. Yep. But this is going to be interesting because I got a chance to talk to Lilyana from her forced imprisonment and her parents and watch these people come in. It was recorded. I recorded. I did it live and recorded it. And so we've got a history of this, and we've got it all for anybody that wants to see it. It was the last time that Tom Hamner was on. He's been on a couple of times, and watching what they're doing there to keep families apart. Did you know that they're getting about $1 million per kid for each child that they take from families? And in Michigan here, one of the worst areas is Allegan County, Michigan, because they are literally kidnapping children by CPS. They take these kids away from their parents. Most of the kids are being trafficked around through the foster care systems. And 1 in 6, I believe that the numbers are 1 in 6 has been raped as a child within the system. So you tell me why this stuff is continuing to go on. I cannot believe that our elected officials don't know what's going on. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. What's that?
The state thinks children are their property. The state believes that children are the property of the state.
And they're getting paid for it. They're getting paid a lot. And I'm going to try to make the connection here because I think you can look at it and it needs to be, I'm asking a question. Why does the DNR control so much state land and the waterways, which back up to real questionable properties there? I want to know if the DNR is involved in this. They almost have to be, because there's too much going on with unchecked power. So when you look at the state departments that are colluding together, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which is under Witless there, and how much money goes through that to plants like Goshen and the right place for employing people. This is one huge criminal organization that's all connected. And all you got to do is look at it for a few minutes. Then look at what's going on in the court systems, like what happened to Stefanie Scott and Stefanie Lambert. These women are heroes, and make no mistake, they're not backing down. They're in the fight and they stay in the fight. Jason Ickes, Jason's in the fight and staying in the fight. You're in the fight, staying in the fight on this. There's a lot of good people who are refusing to back down to these extortionists. They're threatening, they're extorting, they're coercing. They're silencing people, and they're all involved in it together. When you've got, I don't know if you heard me talk about the DNR, but the DNR in the state of Michigan has complete control over the waterways. They have 4.6 million acres that they own. And I quote, they own from a site that I quoted on what's that?
They stole.
They stole. They have mineral rights.
They stole it.
They have mineral rights. They have the rights to the timber and the logging. And I saw clear cutting up when I was at Grayling, and they left an environmental disaster there. We would never in the energy as a private company. We're a private company, right? They would have strung us up for leaving a right-of-way look like that. We have to do complete restoration. And if there's even so much as one drop of anything spilled on a right-of-way, people are running around with sand shovels picking this stuff up. Not the DNR, not the state of Michigan. When I was up at Grayling, it looks like they paused it in time. It looks like a kids camp that you bring your families back to in the 90s. They even had dial-up connection in their PX. And I saw probably no more than 10 people there, and none of them were military. And I want to know the connection of DK Security, who is running. They're the ones that protect the Van Andel Arena. DK Security. It's a private security. And I don't know if it's still housed, but it started in Kentwood, Michigan here. And they were doing all the security at the airfield as well as the base entrance, the gate entrance. And the only ones I saw of consequence were the DNR on there. And so I'm like, there was no military presence there. There were a few state employees, but in the kids' camp of what they were showing me, it was like completely vacated housing, personnel, barracks, if you want to call it that, unheated, sitting there. They're maintained. I mean, if you looked at it from the sky or Google Earth, you'd be able to see what looks like something that's happening. There's nobody there, people. There's no one there. If there is, they're all underground because they sure as hell weren't above ground. And it was just really crazy. So what they're showing people out there isn't what's for real. And I will not be silenced about what I'm seeing here because I don't believe any of it. It's just like President Trump, and I'm still perplexed over this. He's talking about the graffiti in DC. It's a lie. There is no graffiti in DC. I was there. It is pristine. It was one of the safest cities I've ever felt like I've been in. I never felt, the gal that travels with me, a couple of people on my team, they were freaking out on scooters until 2:00 in the morning in the rain. I did not do that because I do not like rain. So I kind of stayed out of it, but they came back and they had a marvelous time. There was no security around them. Every bit of that thing is under surveillance, and I'm pretty sure that Grayling is too, but it's like I'm looking at this going, I don't know what they're pulling here. There was not so much as a pickup truck on the airfield. There were no planes. There was no military vehicles there. There was a big fat nothing. But in the area where the Army Corps of Engineers are, and to all my Anon friends out there, the Castle Red, that was clearly visible there. And they had urban vehicles, we'll call them urban assault vehicles for lack of a better term, but they're the ones that diffuse bombs and such. They had those there. But other than that, people, I'm going to tell you what, there was nothing there. And it seemed like specifically weirdly, I don't know, devoid of all military personnel. And I know that there's two Signal Corps groups that are up there, which I've got a sneaking suspicion on that one, Jeff. If you want to hear what I have to say, everybody else is going to be cringeworthy out there because
Sure.
they're listening. Well, you got to flip your camera on. I don't like talking to a white dot.
Oh,
Can you do that?
What's that?
I'm like talking to this white.
Yeah.
Okay, that's better. I feel better. I don't like talking to a white dot, right? So I want people to think about this because this could be, there's some dates of technology that changed, which are noteworthy. Okay, so they've been trying to do an expansion to Grayling, and everybody in the community is like, oh no, we need to protect it. We need to protect it. Well, who's going to get this land if they expand Grayling? It's the state. And I believe it's the state that owns the land because the Army Corps or the DNR was up there and they were clear cutting, which tells me that the state owns the land. And I think the state owns Camp Grayling. There's no military presence there. They can do what they want. So we've got the DNR up there who has jurisdiction over everything. The people of the state of Michigan are going, wait a minute, we don't want to expand Grayling, the camp. The military's got enough presence up here. It's like, okay, guys, I'm going to be the first one to give you the bad news here, but it's the state of Michigan that's grabbing that territory. It's not the military. It's the state of Michigan that's grabbing that territory and above ground. I don't know what's below ground, but it sure is. It sure begs a lot of questions, because above ground, what you got is a summer camp and the DNR that's profiteering off the land. And I want to know where that timber is going, and I want to see the receipts. Where are they selling the minerals that they're mining and the trees that they're taking on? Unchecked power, because it's going into some sort of a weird, I'm sure it's going into some weird accounting program.
China.
Very
the connection between Michigan and Witless Whitmer and China is just unbelievable. You guys are under CCP control. Is DNR? So much of DNR Gresham Whitmer. Do not resuscitate.
Yeah, there you go. That wouldn't be a bad option there. But I just got to bring this up. It's like, so I'm looking at this going, okay, supposedly there's two Army Corps of Engineer groups up there that you can see that there's evidence all around you, Castle Red and Castle Green. Okay. So I'm like, okay, now they're involved. So that's kind of interesting. But there's also Signal Corps up there, which I got to tell you, I'm a little bit interested in this, because for years I had an unusual contact with somebody that was from Signal Corps years ago, and it was odd. It was an odd thing. And the guy came up to me and said, I can't talk to you, but you can ask me questions. And it was a random on the street contact that I got. I've had these for a few years. It's been, for years, and it was really odd. So we figured it out. The guy was from Signal Corps. There's two Signal Corps units that are up there. And so, but they sure as heck ain't on the ground, because they've got dial-up connection in their PX. And I saw their training facilities, and everything they had there was off-the-shelf technology. There was nothing that was, you could have built the same laser tag thing that they've got to train the troops off the shelf. And and the other question I had is they had a training area that had, I don't know, I put the picture up on my Telegram channel on how many weapons for training that they had, all hooked up to pneumatics that would give you the kickback, so you'd feel how the actual firearm felt, and they could assess it. And I'm like going, okay, you're supposed to have 30,000 people up here at the camp, and you got less than 20 pieces of weaponry here, or firearms, that you're training all of them on before they can touch live ammunition. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I started asking the one guy there, the only one that was telling me really the truth of what was going on behind the scenes. I'm like, well, how much does this equipment cost? So we were going through each and every weapon there, or firearms, because I'm like, they're not weapons. Their weapon is only if you actually commit a crime. A firearm, or defending yourself, they're firearms. And no live ammo there. So I'm going, what the hell? He's giving me the price of all these. I said, so what's all this system? If you were to buy this and put this together off the shelves to train people, how much would it cost? He's like $750,000. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, why don't we have this in every single county across the state of Michigan and spin up the militia and actually train people so we know what they're doing? Because the amount of savings you could save by not having live ammunition is incredible. I mean, it would be an incredible thing to have over, but I'm not buying it, that they're training every single soldier that goes through there, or training from the joint forces on the system, because there were like 20 or so firearms there. How are you going to do that with 30,000 people? That doesn't make sense. So, so I'm sitting here.
They're not training.
I'm sitting here watching this, going, there's more going on here than meets the eye. So I start looking at an area. I got that we were shown a map, and there were no fly zones in places over a camp, going, how the hell do you have a localized no-fly zone here, here, and here. And then there's also a spur off of Lake Marguerite, because I came home and I started looking at what I could find. There's a spur going off, and I want to know what's at the end of that spur. If they're able to move people in and out, and the connection with the waterways there, which the frickin' DNR controls. It's incredible, right? So all these things didn't make sense. So let's go back to Signal Corps, because I want to go to Signal Corps. Signal Corps has a significant presence, and they dump a bunch of 18-year-olds on the ground with equipment that's way too high powered for an 18-year-old with half a brain out there who's not afraid of anything yet. And we'll put them in, historically, they can be put into dangerous situations with high-powered electronics, right? So this goes back to technology, to antenna technology. And I don't know if anybody out there understands some of the stuff that's gone on. And I'm not military, so I can talk about anything that I want. And I really you just kind of figure things out as you go along. You know, when you look at what HAARP was doing, people are way off base what was going on with HAARP. What I think what was going on with HAARP is the active phase array antennas, which enables the planes to talk to each other with a directed antenna, because it's in the nose cone of our jets. So the jets can talk to each other directly without anybody being able to pick up the signal. And there's some other things that went on, especially with the F-14 fighter, which is my plane. I love the F-14, and I'm still pissed that they took it out of service, because it was an awesome, awesome aircraft. Okay. And I actually know somebody who is an F-14 pilot, who is someone that I absolutely love. This person, amazing person, honest person and such. He's never told me anything about it. He just knows that I'm obsessed with the F-14, and that happened in my 20s. Right. So, and I have the t-shirt to prove it, because I would go to the air shows just specifically to see the F-14 fly. So when you look at the technology in the nose cones, and also if you're a little bit aircraft obsessed, some of the propulsion on that, and how they change things, when you look at the Ohio class submarines and some of the things that went on with the propulsion, the quiet propulsion for the Ohio class submarines, it's fascinating. I have a feeling that the real reason why they wanted that extra land had more to do with replacing the communication system that can jump around the globe than actually what they're saying it is. And honeys, I'm going to tell you what, that's underground. You ain't going to see nothing out of that thing. It's going to, but the direction, the ability to have an antenna in a direction like that, where they were planning on it going, I'm pretty extra sure that this is an underground situation, and they're going to let the DNR run roughshod over everything that's on the land that nobody sees, and watch these DNR morons decimate our state. We don't need the land above it. Why are they going after the land? So these bastards can go ahead and mine the minerals and clear cut our land and give the profits to these oligarch families that are rigging our damn elections. That's what's going on. And if everybody out there's not mad about it, you should be. And we should be throwing these names out there. I want to talk about the people that are involved in the gravel pits. And I'm not sure if Huizinga, local politician, is involved in this. But I sure as hell can tell you that the Amway Corporation, through our RVD DeVos, was absolutely involved in Tudor Dixon, and there's a connection with the Econ Club going there. And now Oprah's coming through this. These people are criminals. They know what they're doing, and we need to completely reject what we're hearing on fake stream media and get in behind and do some real research into what's really going on here. And if you don't think that the SR-72 spy plane isn't real, you're joking yourself. It's real, and they've got more technology than that. There you go.
Wow.
There's Donna's rant.
Wow.
More information
That
than you
was
wanted to
that
have
was.
today, wasn't it? Screw all of them. I'm sick of all of them.
I got an education on that, but it all makes sense. The the land grabs and who's profiting from it, and I just don't trust Gretchen Whitmer as far as I could throw her or her husband.
Well, I want to
And
go further than that. Okay, so Terry Lynn Land is behind backing this great big monolith cement castle on 28th Street and 196 there. I want you to think about this, people. This is unusual. This whole area is unusual, and I'll tell you why. We had the gypsum mines, and I was in them years ago on like field trips and such, and they did cold storage down there because it's way underground. These things are huge. The caves down there that they had, it's stories upon stories deep. And you go down in a little mine shaft and you go down it, and then they would give you a tour of it. And I mean, the rooms in there were absolutely huge where they were mining and such for said gypsum and such, but they were using it for cold storage. Allegedly, they flooded those. I know a guy that went down there to retrieve equipment that they flooded out, and he was a diver and such. This whole area along the Grand River should be suspect as all get out for the entire state, because guess what? Is there any development along the Grand River? No. Why? Because it's DNR land. Is there parks there? Yes, there's parks there. Did the DeVosses in Amway put more parks in Ada? Yes, they did. And I want you to look at all of the connections there. Who controls the land? The DNR controls the land. There's basically nobody has access to this land. You're going to see jack nothing there. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this little castle that I allegedly bankrolled by Terry Lynn Land, who was the ex-Secretary of State here. That is directly across the Grand River, the highway and the Grand River, to Johnson Park, which is also immediately adjacent to Millennium Park, which is all gravel pits, and also connects to the gypsum mines. Think this thing through, people, and downtown Grand Rapids. And there's way more to these networks than what meets the eye. I
wish Jason was on. I'm a Florida guy, so all these areas. This is great information. I don't have much to contribute because I'm not very familiar with.
That's okay.
With the
I'm
area.
putting it out there for you and God and everybody else to see, and let them know that that these people that are on the top. I posted something about the oligarch families. There's allegedly 20. There's reports of between 22 and 40 of them. They pay for our elections. They're the ones that install the candidates. It is not the Republican Party. It's not the Democrat Party. These people are dumb. And the ones in the parties, they're just useful idiots at this point. And on the bottom, there's some really good people that are trying to do the right thing. The average person that gets into the party wants to get in to do the right thing. The people that are controlling the party, they're in it for money, and they're controlled and they're placed. I'll guarantee you that with every part of my being.
Yep, money and power, and it's
you bet it is.
It's very obvious, and it's becoming more and more obvious to the general public. And this is, this is the fight of our lifetime, and people don't understand it. They think, oh, it's just a political, swing, and the pendulum's going to come back to the right. And we could be, if we don't have a fair election, this could be it. This could be one party rule forever. If we don't get this one.
Yes. I'm gonna see if I can bring up. Here is a 50 of the largest inherited. I want to do it by state because I think if people want to know who's sitting on top here, the ones that are sitting on top are these families, and it's family wealth. I mean, look at what's happened with Amway. You've got a prince and a DeVos that got married. I'm not buying this crap. This sounds almost like kingdoms that are united, it doesn't make sense. And the amount of money that goes through the hands of these people is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. See if I can find this list here while we're sitting here. I appreciate you sitting on here. I'm waiting for this court case to start. Let me go back and see what else I can find here a minute.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
I have to bail soon. You're gonna stay on for how long? You're gonna just live stream?
I'm gonna flip the camera on. Well, we have to have proof. It's like when Stefanie said that we have to be in the courts. Watching these court proceedings is so important. So when I put them on BNN last week, literally they came in and killed the feed and then terminated the parental rights and a court ordered parental visitation rights. They did it right there without a court order. They stopped it, and they were no longer able to talk to their daughter. And why is it that nobody's saying anything? So
yeah, it's not getting any coverage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not finding the Michigan one. I've got a screenshot somewhere, but it'd take me a little bit to find it because, of course, they're burying it. And then you know what? You look at the systems that they have, when you look at, say, like Amway has like 12 pastors or something that they go and try to sell the claim it and frame it prosperity doctrine. I don't really think God works that way, just me maybe, but they put that crap out there to get people to buy into it. And it's the Seven Mountain. You can look up Seven Mountain pastors to see that. It's crazy.
Seven Mountain.
Yeah, look up Seven Mountain.
Pastors?
You'll find. Yeah, find the. Yep. Yeah, let's see if I can find. Oh, here we go. Wealthiest oligarchs. There's actually a list of the ones in Michigan. A lot of them are tied to Grand Rapids or the area out by Traverse City, which I got to show you some, Jeff. This is kind of cool. I'm not finding the list that I want. I'll find it and I'll put it in my Telegram channel. Let me check my meeting here a minute. Still not on. And I'm going to put a map up of Michigan in a minute. I have a suspicion here after I've been going up to Grayling and looked at the waterways, because I think this could be fairly significant. Remember when they were talking about Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden. I just got to find a good map here so I can show everybody what I'm talking about here. And I got to blow it up here a minute. No, that's a lousy map. I can do it on. I got to think where I got this from. Google Maps. See if we can like duck around in here. Michigan Google Maps, and I want to show you this because I think this is fairly significant. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. And we need to have more proof of this. But remember when we looked at Hunter Biden's back? And
yeah, that was New York.
That was New York. But I want to show you something here. If I can blow this up a little bit. And we're gonna zoom in here to Grayling, because this is so we've got Gaylord up here. We got Gaylord and Grayling. I'm going to go into Grayling a minute, because I want to get I took pictures of the map, and so that you can see. Here's Lake Marguerite, right? And the Asabo River goes through Grayling, which is a huge waterway, and it connects a whole bunch of lakes there. But what I started following the waterways and seeing where they look at nice little checkered thing here. That isn't a crop field, guys. That's a Google map manipulation. And so let's look up here, which is real interesting. See if I can get it. It showed up really good on my phone. Here it's not showing up on this map very well, and I'm not sure why. But there's all of these little inlets here. And when you see all of them, this is not a clear picture of it. I started looking at that going, man, this looks a lot like the Finger Lakes area. And then further than this, they just made these islands, Manitou, kind of like a restricted island. And you've got Fox Island, which historically has trafficked kids on Fox Island. You've got all of these islands here, straight out through Mackinac Island, Boblo Island. You've got all of these islands. But what's really got me looking at this is, check this out up here. We've also got all the islands all over what? Another state-owned area. All these islands right here, and all the waterways that are from, say, like Grayling. And there's a spur off of Lake Margrethe too, which should be a little concerning to everyone. But you've got all of these, all of the billionaires of the world have a place up here by Bayview, by the Petoskey area, Bay Harbor. This is all right here. The DeVosses, everybody has, like, because I was told that when I was going across the state. You've got all the who's who in the zoo are sitting right there by Petoskey and Bay Harbor. Now, let's look at the lakes and the spurs. It's got the same setup as Finger Lakes area. Of New York. I'm going to go back down here again a minute. There's Otsego Lake.
Hey, something just broke in the Cohen testimony in the Trump trial.
Okay.
He admitted to stealing $30,000 on the stand from the Trump organization.
Wow.
Flat out, just said he stole it.
Huh. So there's a spur that came up on my, like a waterway that was dug into it. It's right here. There's a canal there, and it abruptly dead ends. Check this out. Odd. That's an odd thing for Michigan. Michigan doesn't do that. But they've got
Do what?
A strange, we don't dig canals like Florida. That's not something that Michigan typically does. It's just odd.
They probably want to build waterfront property and sell it.
Yeah, but it's just it doesn't make sense there. So anyhow, there's some things that we need to look at that just don't make sense. But trace the Osabo River around, guys, and see what you see up there, because I'm going to tell you what, it's not making sense. So let me go back and see if this is so let's talk about, okay, let's see, enter meeting. Let me see. I think I got kicked off it again. Yep, got kicked off. Let me see if I can go back and join again a minute. And hopefully we'll be able to do, this is a real important thing for people to watch this hearing. Oh, for Pete's sakes. See if it's going yet. It should be pretty close to. Nope, not going yet. So anyhow, let's talk about can you carry on for just a minute? I'm going to take a real quick break and then I'll be back so I can sit through this hearing. Could you talk about what's happening with the President Trump hearing a minute, please?
Yeah, I can. So what's being reported is that Michael Cohen is on the stand, and he just reported, basically admitted to stealing. It looks like $30,000. He was paid $50,000 to secure his IT because for some reason he was connected, and the Trump organization appears that they wanted him to tighten up his IT, and he was paid $50,000, and he only spent $20,000, and he pocketed the rest. So he's admitted to basically embezzlement, and he also admitted to, excuse me, to taping phone calls illegally. I'm a Florida resident, and I know that Florida is a two-party state, so both parties must be privy to the recording of the conversation, and that's a problem for Mr. Cohen and his credibility. So we have that. We have the big Trump rally on Thursday in the South Bronx, and maybe this will all tie in together where we get a verdict on Wednesday, and the rally in the South Bronx is the day after. Possibly could have a verdict on Thursday morning. Actually, Wednesday there is no court; he's off. So if we don't get a verdict tomorrow, possibly we get one Thursday morning, and Thursday afternoon is this massive Trump rally in the South Bronx, and Trump really thinks that New York potentially could be in play.
Well, and a little bird told me that potentially Jeff Buongiorno may be there as media.
I might.
BNN.
How's that look?
Yeah, BNN Media. Jeff Buongiorno, BNN Media.
I gotta get my mic ready.
We're gonna have our little spooks everywhere.
Absolutely.
Getting the truth, digging down into the truth. I love that, and I love that you're covering it, because we're still waiting for the Lilyana Cook. Her name is Lilyana Rose. We're gonna see if we can get the hearing. It's supposed to start in about 9 minutes, and I'm just gonna turn the camera on and we're gonna watch it, and then I'm not gonna comment. I'm just gonna put this on and let this thing play so that everybody can see it in the best resolution possible. We're gonna have our little spooks everywhere, and I'm so proud of all the work you've done, and I don't think you've gotten enough credit for the hours and hours of investigative work that you've done. And, you've got such a special skill set for it, to be able to know what you're seeing with a background in cybersecurity. It's incredible.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to see results, and it's a little frustrating where it's hard to get people on the same page with this. And time is of the essence. We're 6 months away, and something has to break.
I've never seen you go after credit either. I've never seen you go after credit for the work you've done. You're one of the most humble people I've actually talked to, because you do the work, but you never go after credit for it, which is just really charming.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's got a country to save, and it's we're fighting. It's like Davy versus Goliath.
For all the people that are in the Bronx area, where do they go for the rally?
Yeah, it's called Crotona Park, and it's the South Bronx. And so, I grew up in the area. It's safe. It's a nice park. It's great for a rally. And if you're in the Bronx, if you're in the South Bronx, if you're in Manhattan, any of the 5 boroughs, anywhere in the country, fly in. President Trump needs your support. It would be nice to break. Supposedly we broke the record in Wildwood with over 100,000 people. I think we can do a lot better than that in the South Bronx, and especially if we get a nice president, a hung jury or a not guilty verdict on Thursday. That it would be it would be historical, and we need to get out and support President Trump and support President Trump. Tell your friends, get your friends registered to vote, get them involved, do what you can do. It's we're up for a huge fight, and we need to prevail. There is no failure. Is just not an option.
Yeah, I'm like I'm right all about this right here.
I like it.
There's a guy right there. That's the improvement to Mount Rushmore right there.
I like it. I like it.
So my son made that for me. It's 3D printed because.
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting. We're still waiting for this court proceedings, and I'm gonna stay on here until I snap the camera on, because when you think about all the harm that's happened to the children in the United States of America from the pornography and nonsense that they're teaching kids in the school, from letting kids believe that they're a cat and go to the bathroom in a litter box. How about the genital mutilation and sterilization of our children? This is not acceptable, and we need to be fighting for these kids. And now, the reality that CPS is losing about 850,000 kids a year. Or they're kidnapping them, straight out kidnapping from families to take these kids away. Who are these people, and what are they really doing? What is this all about? I think it's more sinister than what an average person can even get their arms around.
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing in many of the state lawmakers in Florida, they're between 35 and 40 years old. They all seem to fit the same profile. Where I do my research in it, and it all points back that they have either in their domicile, they're living with same-sex folks about their same age. So either they're living with roommates, or what I really believe is that they've leveraged the queer theory from the Frankfurt School, and they've basically invoked this. It's us, the politicians, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, against them, and they've taken what I want to say maybe a vulnerable part of society who's I have nothing against gay people at all, but they like weaponized it, and a lot of these folks were selected, I believe, as our lawmakers, and also in our school boards, and we're seeing the result of it now. And look at the kids that were shut down for COVID. Right now 4 years later, they're graduating college, so they couldn't get an education in person. They got this crap thrown down their throat with CRT over the internet, no interaction with people for who knows how long, depending upon what state. And now they're ready to graduate college, and it's like they're targeting this one group of students in whatever year this would be, their graduation. I guess they were graduated high school in 2021, but it's just terrible. They're shut out of college graduation, and it's got to stop.
Well, and I think what we're talking about is building a victim mindset in people. When they can turn people their minds to having a victim mentality, anyone whose emotions are engaged in that way is very, very vulnerable to being manipulated. No matter what segment they divided people into, because we're divided into a million different segments. What do you identify with? And going back to, as I identify as a citizen, if somebody were an illegal alien, like we were talking about earlier, it's nonsense. You're either an American, you're a human being, or I don't know where you get the labels from. A victim, so you could say I'm better than you because I've got la da da characteristic. It's nonsense.
Well, that's the whole Marxist agenda, is the oppressor versus the oppressed, and they're teaching people you're oppressed. We're going to get you into a position of power, and you're going to show them, right? And just to let you know, I identify as non-binary.
I like that. And I identify as transparent.
Yeah.
So yes, I just we really have to just completely disregard these labels and go back to, who are you as a person? Who are you as a person? You can claim this, that, or the other thing, but they don't matter. You're limiting yourself when you grab onto a label into being what you really want to be. And now your destiny is determined by who you identify with. That's not the best move anyone can make. Oh, guess what? We're on right now. Hang on, let me flip this thing on. Jeff, I'm going to say goodbye.
So yeah, I gotta. Yeah, one thing. There's we're talking about education, and Hollywood has been so tainted, but there is a great movie. It's called the Free State of Jones. Have you heard of it?
No, but can we talk about it? Let's talk offline because this thing is going to get going. And
all right,
then
get that on. Yep.
We'll publish it. And then Jeff Buongiorno is going to be at the Brandenburg News Network at the Trump rally. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip this thing on here a minute, and so that we can have everyone here talking. And this is the meeting that we're in right now. And I don't have my camera on yet, but I might put it on for just a minute here, and we will allow this thing to. I don't like these big cursor things. Let's see.
Make first participant the presenter?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to change the presenter to Hall?
Yeah.
So yes?
Yes.
Okay. Take it away, Holly.
And then I'll just, when y'all are ready, let me see if it'll let me. Is she on here yet?
No, not magistrate.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about your mom. Yeah, I see her.
So we're going to go ahead and put this
And
on a
Mama
minute,
Sue?
and then we'll let this go forward, and you can enjoy this hearing. But this is what we're going to do today. So God bless you all. Thank you, God, for your blessings today.
You want to
Be
keep
with these people
Lily?
and help them.
Yeah.
In Jesus' name we
is she
pray,
on here
amen.
now?
I don't see her.
Who is going to have her on? Do you know who's bringing her on?
I think it's going to be Mrs. Let me check her email. She's like,
Bunny.
So,